You think procrastination is laziness. It is not. It is arithmetic crooked arithmetic. Your brain swears is honest. Right now feels bigger than later. Relief now, responsibility later. The equation is rigged, and you keep losing. Look in the mirror, not the glass one, the inner mirror that reflects whatever is closest. That mirror favors the near and blurs the far. This is hyperbolic discounting. The closer a reward or relief is to now, the more your mind inflates it. The farther a task or consequence, the more your mind shrinks it until it looks harmless. You do not postpone because you do not know better. You postpone because, in this mirror, later looks smaller than a lie. You promise you will start at 5 p.m., and at 4:59 the mirror tilts. After dinner, it whispers. Dinner becomes after one episode. One episode becomes after scrolling. At each step, the mirror magnifies the comfort in front of you and shrinks the cost that is not breathing on your neck. The present wins again. If value decayed in a straight, exponential line, you could plan and stick to it. But your mind curves the line into a hyperbola. As the deadline approaches, the value of starting right now suddenly explodes, and you sprint in panic that looks like discipline. You call it, "I work best under pressure." The mirror calls it what it is. You only work when the future finally steps close enough to look real. This is not weakness. It is wiring. Your ancestors did not need to submit PDFs. They needed to eat. Immediate rewards, calories, warmth, acceptance were survival. The mind that overvalues now is the mind that lived long enough to pass you its panic. In a world of alarms and long horizons, that bias becomes a trap disguised as comfort. You try to outvote the mirror with motivation. You watch a video, write a plan, feel clean. The motivation is also hyperbolic. It peaks when the idea is shiny, then collapses as frictions appear. Effort, uncertainty, boredom. The mirror shows the small pain first, not the large meaning later. You see the keystroke, not the degree. The first push-up, not the stronger. Back. The awkward first 10 minutes, not the dignity of finishing. Your values have not failed. Your optics have done another trick. You think relief is free. When you avoid the task, a soft wash of calm slides over you. The mirror sells it as a bargain. Get comfort now, and the bill disappears in the fog of later. But avoidance charges interest. The anxiety you dodge compounds like debt. Each delay adds a fee. Guilt, self-loathing, compressed time, sleep loss, frantic recovery. Hyperbolic discounting hides this interest because it makes tomorrow look cheap. To resist, you would not win by will alone. You must redesign the mirror. Bring the future closer and push the temptation away. Make the first step absurdly small so it enters the mirror as a thing you can touch. Open the document, write one ugly sentence, set a 5-minute timer, put on shoes, fill the water bottle. Shrink the present comfort, bury the app, block the site, put your phone in another room. Make the path to distraction long and the path to starting short. Do not trust feelings. Trust friction. You can also borrow the future's anger. Pre-commitment is a contract with the you who will exist in a few hours. Schedule public stakes, sense shame-free accountability. Pay the fee up front. Deposit money you will lose if you do not start. Promise a friend a screenshot at 6 p.m. Set a lock that releases entertainment only after your work block. You are not one person. You are a committee with members who never show up at the same time. Pre-commitment lets your future self vote early. Notice something darker. When you delay, you create a self you can despise. Then you use that disgust as proof. You cannot change, which justifies more delay. The mirror does not just distort time. It distorts identity. You start calling yourself a procrastinator as if it were a blood type. The procrastination is not a trait. It is a time geometry error plus the pain relief reflex. The mirror lies about who you are to sell you another hour of numbness. So ask the right question. Not, how do I feel like working? But, how do I engineer the mirror so that starting is the easiest option available to the animal inside me? Because you are an animal first, a thinker second. Built for the animal. Shorter horizons, clearer cues, smaller thresholds, instant. Feedback, gentle wins. Then let the thinker arrange meaning around those moves. Staring into the mirror now, you can see the curve. You can see the lie that makes later look safe. You can feel the relief rising if you close this and drift away. But you can also bring the future closer. One friction, one predicament, one ugly first sentence at a time. The present always wins unless you change what the present contains. When the mirror shows you two paths, soft relief that shrinks your life, or small pain that enlarges it, will you keep trusting the mirror, or will you finally learn to break it? You do not recognize your future self. You keep promising the stranger in the mirror that you will start tomorrow. Not the bathroom mirror, the inner mirror, the one that only reflects whoever stands closest. And your future self is never close. In that mirror, they are a ghost. Thin, distant, conveniently unreal. You wouldn't lend money to a stranger. Why would you lend discipline? Psychologists call it temporal self-continuity, how similar you feel to the you who will exist next week, next month, next year. If the bond is weak, you treat future you like a different person with an unlimited pain tolerance and no capacity for resentment. You load them with your unpaid promises, your unread pages, your workouts you cannot do today. You bully them because they cannot fight back from the future. This is why your resolutions feel holy at midnight and hollow at noon. In the dark, close to the mirror. The future seems near. The change seems possible. Then the morning pulls. You're into errands, messages, noise. Distance grows. The ghost fades. You forget you ever meant it. Not because a liar, because the relationship between the selves dissolved again, as it always does when you stop looking. Your brain is not one voice. It is a parliament with terms of office that last about 15 minutes. Whoever takes the podium claims to be you and spends your time like it was printed yesterday. Present biased arithmetic shows a cookie as a bargain and a paragraph as a burden. The mirror aids the scam by making the cookie vivid and the paragraph faint. So procrastination is not just delay. It is betrayal of a person you insist is you. And betrayal has consequences you pretend are invisible only because they occur in a room you cannot yet enter. Sleep loss, frantic sprints, lower quality, thinner trust in yourself. These are not punishments from the universe. They are emails sent by the future self you keep overworking, and you keep marking them unread. Repair begins by forcing proximity. Bring the ghost to the glass. Write a note to tomorrow you that is specific, kind, and demanding. At 8:10 a.m. Open the document. 2 messy paragraphs. Screenshot by 8:30. Put it where your eyes must collide with it. Record a 20-second voicemail to yourself and schedule it. Place an object on your desk that belongs to the task, a printed outline, a pair of running shoes, a single-page brief, a cue with weight. Make the future tangible. Then borrow their anger. Ask what they hate you for, not in abstraction. List the receipts, the missed call, the late fee, the paper in a panic. Feel the sting. Anger is focus. Use it to draft a confession. I keep dumping pain on you because I would not carry the small weight now. Sign it. This is not shame theater. It is bonding. You are learning to treat the future self as kin, not a courier. Next, enlist pre-commitment in their defense. Lock your attention behind a door that opens only after you have paid the toll. Websites blocked until noon. A social plan you can attend, only if you post your progress. Entertainment that requires a passcode someone else holds. You are building a panopticon for your temptation self-surveillance where the possibility of being observed keeps the animal in you aligned with the promise in you. It is not cruelty. It is protection against the mirror's distortion. There is a gentler move. Temporal bundling. Pair a small present reward with the task you owe tomorrow. The good coffee only when you outline. The favorite playlist only when you walk. The soft lamp only when you read. You are training the mirror to associate start with soothe, rewiring the reflex that currently binds start to stress. Finally, narrate identity forward. Say, I am the kind of person who protects my future. Not as affirmation fluff, but as policy. Then back it with evidence today. 2 paragraphs, 1 email, 10 minutes of slow cardio. Identity is cumulative fiction told by facts. Give it the facts, stop, look again into the mirror. The ghost is watching. They will inherit your next move, whether or not you believe they are you. The only question is, will you keep treating your future like a disposable understudy, or will you close the distance and finally act like you share a life? Procrastination is mood repair you think avoiding the task. Not. Avoiding a feeling. Tasks do not bite. Emotions do. The mirror shows the task's first seconds awkward, uncertain, exposed, and your nervous system moves like a hand from a hot stove. You do not delay because ignorant. You delay because burning and you want water now. Researchers of procrastination keep finding the same thing. It is not a time management problem. It is emotion regulation. You postpone to escape discomfort, boredom, confusion, fear of incompetence, fear of judgment. The relief that follows delay is real and fast. It feels like safety. That micro-safety is addictive. Your brain tags avoidance as effective coping. You just trained yourself to quit. Here is the loop. Cue. Think about the task. Affect, appulsive aversion. Appraisal. This will feel bad. Behavior. Switch to something easy. Relief floods in. The relief reinforces the escape. Next time the cue appears, your brain predicts the same relief and lunges for it earlier. This is reward prediction error dopamine, not as pleasure juice, but as a teacher. That worked. Do it again. Do it sooner. And it will continue until you retrain the loop by changing what start feels like. Not by yelling. By design. First, name the feeling precisely. Not, I do not want to. Try, I feel exposed because the first draft will show my limits. Or, I feel resentful because no one will praise this. Or, I feel bored because the task has no novelty. Granular labeling recruits prefrontal circuits that cool the amygdala, name it to tame it. The mirror stops screaming and starts showing edges. Second, shrink the threat horizon. Promise yourself only 5 minutes of contact with the discomfort. Set a timer and mean it. You are building distress tolerance, the ability to feel an emotion without obeying it. When the timer ends, you choose or continue. Often you will continue, not because you discovered motivation, but because the predicted pain was louder than the pain itself, a classic effective forecasting error. Third, change the state before the start. A brisk walk, a glass of water, 2 minutes of box breathing, a power pose in a closed room, 3 push-ups, a cold splash. Not biohacking, warming the engine. State shifts alter the slope of effort. The same task in a different body is a different task. Fourth, pair the aversive with a comfort not mindless, but deliberate. Only your coziest music when you outline. Only the soft sweater when you study. Only the warm light when you read dense pages. Running counter-conditioning. Stitching a small pleasure to a small pain so the net signal is bearable. Over time, bearable becomes neutral, then sometimes pleasant. as mastery bleeds in. Fifth, reframe the meaning of the feeling. Anxiety before work does not mean I am not ready. It means my body is mobilizing energy to do something that matters. Boredom does not mean this is beneath me. It means the reward is too far, bring it closer. Confusion does not mean I am dumb. It means I am at the frontier of my competence. Feelings are weather, not loss. You can carry an umbrella and keep walking. Sixth, install a tiny recovery ritual for when you do not doom scroll. A stretch, a stare at a tree, a 60-second wander from your chair to touch a doorknob and return. Keep the loop clean. Make the break closed, not endless. The animal inside you needs boundaries the way rivers need banks. Finally, practice self-compassion without indulgence. When you slip, you do not say, I am trash. You say, of course I slid, this is a trained reflex, and here is my next tiny move. Shame spikes avoidance. Kindness reopens the channel. This is not softness. It is leverage. You perform better when you are not busy surviving yourself. Watch the mirror now. The task hasn't changed. Your feelings about it have. You can start in the presence of discomfort and discover it shrinks in contact. Or you can keep worshiping the first wash of relief that steals your day, your deadlines, your dignity. Which ritual will you honor when the anxiety rises again? The religion of immediate relief, or the practice of walking through the feeling without bowing to it? You mispredict the pain you delay, because you think starting will feel worse than it does and finishing will feel better than it does. You live between two mirages: exaggerated pain at the door, exaggerated bliss at the exit. The mirror amplifies both. So you postpone the imagined torture and chase the imagined euphoria until the deadline erases fantasy and the real world takes the mic. Psychologists call it effective forecasting your habit of misjudging how you will feel in future states. You overestimate how awful effort will be and underestimate how quickly you adapt once you begin. You also fall into the cold to hot empathy gap. From a calm state, you cannot imagine the momentum, focus, and even enjoyment that can arise after 10 minutes of immersion. So you wait for a feeling that only appears after you start. Consider your last sprint. You dreaded it for days, then entered a trance and wondered why you waited. That is the gap. Your forecast ignored the state change of entry. It valued the pre-start dread as if it were permanent. The mirror froze a single frame and called it a movie. Your mind commits the opposite sin at the finish line. You picture triumphant music, a crowd in your head, a healed identity. Then you finish, and it is Tuesday. Relief, yes. Pride, yes. But not salvation. The gap between imagined salvation and ordinary relief feels like betrayal, which your brain remembers. As work is not worth it. Next time, you hesitate longer. A tragic loop. Delay to avoid exaggerated pain, then delay again because the reward wasn't exaggerated enough. How do you break a loop built from lies? First, pre-register the first 5 minutes. Script them like a ritual. Open doc gives read. Last paragraph gives write. One ugly sentence gives breathe. Make it mindless. You are not deciding to start. You are executing a script. Scripts bypass forecasts. Second, collect receipts of entry. Keep a tiny log. Dread rating before 0 to 10. Dread rating after 5 minutes. Enjoyment rating after 15. Patterns will embarrass your forecasts. The prefrontal cortex loves data. Give it the evidence that the first sensation is a terrible profit. Third, anchor the reward in process, not only outcome. Design a small, immediate payoff you can control. A check mark on a big wall calendar, a short done note to a friend, an audio memo celebrating a single paragraph. You are teaching your brain that the act of honoring a promise is rewarding, independent of applause. The mirror learns new math. Fourth, compress the win window. Do not aim for 3 hours. Aim for 25 minutes of clean focus. Stop when the timer ends, even if you want more. Build hunger. You will return. This is the goal gradient effect. Motivation rises as the finish feels nearer. Shorter sprints deliver more finish lines. More finish lines, more momentum. Momentum makes better forecast. Fifth, when the dread spikes, speak to your future from your past. I have entered that state before. I will enter it again. Name the last time by date. Specificity is a solvent for fear. The animal inside you respects proof more than pep talks. Finally, expect the ordinary at the end. Dissolve the myth of the perfect afterglow. Finishing is not supposed to save your life. It is supposed to free your next hour. That freedom is the quiet reward you keep overlooking because busy waiting for fireworks. Fireworks are for holidays. Freedom is for Wednesdays. Look again at the mirror. It will keep lying about the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes. Will you keep obeying the hallucinations between, or will you step through the doorway? Claim the ordinary freedom and let your actions educate your expectations. Perfectionism is self-protection. You call it high standards. The mirror calls it camouflage. Perfectionism often is not a love of excellence. It is a fear of exposure. If you never finish, no one can judge you. If you start late, you can blame the clock, not your ability. This is self-handicapping, building obstacles so the failure does not land on your core worth. Not lazy. Guarding your identity with delay. Classic studies on self-handicapping show people choose conditions that jeopardize performance when they fear their ability will be evaluated. The logic is poisonous but seductive. If I succeed despite the handicap, I am a genius. If I fail, it is the handicap's fault. Translate that to time. If I ace it last minute, I am special. If I miss, well, time was short. Procrastination becomes a shield. Perfectionism whispers 4 lies. Real work begins when it feels perfect to begin. First draft should prove your talent. Criticism is a verdict, not a resource. Standards must stay high even when stakes are low. Each lie keeps you safe and small. You worship an immaculate beginning and despise the only kind that exists. The ugly one. To break this armor, you need a new creed. I ship ugly on purpose. Not to lower quality forever, but to transfer the sight of perfectionism from the start to the iteration. You make done the condition for better. This is not motivational fluff. It is how complex work is actually built. Version by version through feedback on delight. Tactics. Call on draft in public to a safe witness. Send a rough cut to one person who agreed to respond only with, "Got it, 2 things I like, 1 thing to clarify." You are teaching your nervous system that contact with evaluation can be contained and kind. Impose floor, ceiling rules. Floor. The smallest acceptable deliverable, 300 words, 5 slides, 10 minutes of practice. Ceiling. A fixed stop time. Floors prevent avoidance. Ceilings prevent obsession. Together, they keep you moving. Rename the first pass. Do not call it draft. Call it scaffold, vomit page, clay. Language matters. You do not criticize scaffolding for looking like scaffolding. You stand on it to build. Use microstandards. Define excellence at the right altitude. This email should be clear and kind, not, "This must prove I am brilliant." Excellence is contextual. Wear the right suit to the right event. Schedule the cringe. Put 10 minutes on your calendar labeled, "Read the draft and wince." Expect it. The flinch is part of the ritual, not a reason to quit. When you know the sting has an appointment, it stops ambushing you. Preempt the verdict. Write your own failure postmortem before you start. If this falls flat, the most likely causes are X, Y, Z. Now the worst-case scenario is mapped. And mundane. Fear feasts on vagueness. Starve it with specifics. Practice compassionate exposure. Publish small, imperfect things frequently. A note, a sketch, a micro-thread. You are building behavioral anti-fragility, getting stronger by encountering small stressors deliberately. Look into the mirror. Under the stainless mask of perfectionism is a frightened worker who wants to be seen as worthy without risk. There is no such path. There is only the path where you are seen as trying, improving, and surviving feedback like everyone else. When the urge to delay arrives dressed as standards, will you keep polishing the mask, or will you step onto the stage with visible seams and let the work become worthy in public? Too many doors you do not start because you do not know which door to walk through, and the hallway keeps multiplying. Open a program. 20 tabs glare back. Think workout. 10 routines argue. Consider. Study. 5 sources bicker. The mirror does not reflect the path. It reflects an intersection. And intersections drain the animal before the run even begins. Choice overload is not a metaphor. It is a metabolic tax. More options mean more comparisons, more imagined losses, more opportunity cost grief. Your brain treats every unchosen path as a small funeral. The jam experiment made it famous. Few choices sold more jars than many because curiosity likes a buffet, but commitment likes a menu. You live in a buffet and wonder why you never taste anything long enough to be full. Layer on decision. Fatigue the slow leak of self-regulation across a day of micro-judgments. Choose, choose, choose. By the time it matters, choosing not to. Choose. You call it, I'm tired. The mirror calls it what it is. You spent the day on 1,000 coins of clarity and now paying rent with lint. Procrastination often begins 1 inch before action. The inch where you must decide specifics. Not write, but which paragraph. Not exercise, but which set. Not study, but which chapter. The inch looks small until standing on it. Then it stretches into a stadium of doubts. You delay to avoid the responsibility of being the one who chose wrong. The way out is not more motivation. It is fewer doors and earlier choices that pre-decide at full strength. When you have energy, build set menus. Monday upper body A, Tuesday cardio B. Writing block equals outline gives messy paragraph, gives refinement. Study block equals read, gives highlight, gives 3-sentence summary. Decisions made once become rails. You can slide on when the animal is tired. Use bright line rules. No phone in the first hour. Social media only after 1,500 words. Coffee only at the desk. Rules remove negotiation. Negotiation is where procrastination breeds. Reduce the visual choice load. Clean the desk to a single cue. Hide tools you would not use. Pin 1 tab. If the mirror only shows 1 door, your feet learn 1 story. Go through. Create default futures. Put recurring blocks on your calendar with named scripts, not vague labels. Thursday 7:30 to 8:20 move 50 minutes. Playlist X route Y. Default beats willpower because the path is the path unless you opt out. The human animal likes ruts. Carve them in your favor. Bundle small choices into a ritual. Before each session, fill water, start timer, open doc, read last 3 lines, write 1 ugly sentence. Rituals compress choices into choreography. Choreography moves even when charm is gone. Automate the pain points. If starting requires friction, you can outsource to it. Autoplay your focus playlist at 8 a.m. with a routine. Schedule apps to block sites at 9. Auto send a message to your accountability partner when you open the project. Your job is to move. Let code handle the gates. Decision fatigue is also an identity leak. Every micro-choice asks, "Who are you?" 100 times you whisper, "Not the person who starts." By night, you have told the mirror the story so often it stops showing possibilities and shows only permission slips. You do not need another pep talk. You need an environment that assumes you will act and makes inaction a deviation. Beware of the counterfeit fix. Research as refuge. You open 10 more tabs to be thorough. Thoroughness feels virtuous. The nervous system calms. The clock burns. Ask the only question that matters. What is the smallest concrete move that changes the state of this project from zero to non-zero? Then close everything that does not serve that move. If you cannot close the doors, tape a note to the mirror. One door now, others later. You will be accused by your own inner prosecutor of being rigid. Rigidity is not the crime. Indiscriminate flexibility is. The freedom you want is on the far side of fewer choices. The self-respect you miss is on the far side of keeping simple promises you made when you were saying, "Don't look at the mirror-walled hallway. 1,000 doors shine, but only one opens to the next minute of the life you keep saying you want." When you reach for the knob, will you keep staring at all the doors not choosing, or will you choose one, accept the grief of the unchosen, and step through before your resolve evaporates into indecision again? The attention leftovers, you think multitasking, not bleeding. Every switch leaves something behind. Attention residue, a film of the last task that clouds the lens for the next. You carry fragments, the half-written sentence, the unresolved email tone, the image you scrolled past. They cling to you like smoke. The mirror shows your face. It does not show the haze breathing. When you hop tasks, the brain does not teleport. It reconfigures. That reconfiguration is not free. It costs milliseconds to minutes, and the cost compounds. You feel it as a faint friction, a dullness where clarity should be. You blame caffeine. You blame character. The problem is architectural. You are asking a spotlight to be a strobe. Attention residue keeps you near the surface of everything. Shallow contact never produces the first satisfying click of understanding, the moment when difficulty collapses into shape. Without that click, effort feels meaninglessly heavy. You delay to avoid that heaviness, then switch to lighter trivia, which leaves more residue, which makes the next attempt heavier. A spiral disguised as productivity. The solution is both brutal and kind. Protect entry. Protect depth. Protect exit. Protect entry. The first 3 minutes decide if you will sink or skim. Close doors before you open work. Mute notifications, silence the room, put the phone in another space. Kill stray tabs. Create a start mode, a tiny ritual that signals the nervous system. We go under now. Water, timer, read last lines, one ugly sentence. You are not being precious. You are teaching the animal that the cave has a single entrance. Protect depth. Work in monotasks, one target per block. Name it out loud. For 25 minutes, draft intro. Depth requires a boundary on both ends. On the front end, the start mode. On the back end, a hard stop to prevent perfectionism from morphing into its cousin. Avoidance by overworking the wrong thing. Use clean blocks, 25 to 50 minutes, then come up for air on purpose. Protect exit. Exiting a task without residue is an art. Most people rip themselves away mid-sentence, mid-tab, mid-confusion. Then they carry a filament of tension into whatever comes next. Instead, close the loop consciously. Write a one-sentence summary of where you are. List the next 2 visible steps. Park the cursor where you will begin. Take one long breath while staring at a fixed point. Now exit. You have bottled the state. You can rehydrate it later. Stagger similar tasks. batch email, batch admin, batch. Quick calls. Grouping reduces reconfiguration. You think this costs spontaneity. It buys sanity. Create a quarantine for novelty. Curious? Good. Curious during a deep block? Fatal. Keep a capture tool, a sticky note, or an inbox for ideas and links. Write later beside each capture. The animal calms when it knows the novelty is not lost. The work continues because it knows novelty is not now. Use environmental anchors. One chair for deep work, one for everything else. One browser profile for work sites, one for play. Bodies learn places. Make your places honest. Honor the refractory. Period. After shallow tasks, messages, logistics, do not expect immediate depth. Walk, breathe, move objects. Let the residue settle. You wouldn't dive into a lake right after churning it with an oar. Attention residue explains why just a peek at messages detonates an hour. It explains why you cannot feel smart when you keep slicing your mind into ribbons. It explains why you procrastinate. The mirror shows a task, but the air between you and it is thick with ghosts from what you touched 10 minutes ago. You step back because the air feels unbreathable. There is a tenderness in monotasking that productivity porn misses. It is an act of respect for the work, for the self, for the future you who inherits the quality of your minutes. When you protect depth, you discover the thing procrastination promised and never delivered. Relief that lasts longer than 3 swipes. Look into the mirror. Watch the haze drift across your reflected eyes. You could keep living on leftovers, switching when the first chew is tough, explaining your dullness with stories about talent and fate. Or you could finally eat one thing at a time, all the way down, and let the world grow sharp again. Which ritual will you serve when the itch to check flickers across your hand like static? The open loop haunting. You think unfinished work sleeps when you walk away. It does not. It watches. Uncompleted tasks generate a tension field, the zygarnic effect, where the mind keeps returning to the open loop to seek closure. This is why cliffhangers glue you to screens and to-do lists hum in the background like a machine you forgot to turn off. Open loops are attention magnets. Procrastination is the habit of surrounding yourself with magnets and wondering why you cannot move. The mirror shows you a single task. The room is actually full of half-built scaffolds. Emails drafted to 60%, ideas noted to 10%, outlines at 40%, errands at 80%. Each loop tugs. The tug feels like anxiety with no face. You open your phone to drown it. The loops remain. You delay not because comfortable, but because haunted. Here's the deception. Avoidance produces a brief calm as the loop fades from awareness. But the loop does not close. It sinks. Sunk loops become ambient dread. Ambient dread makes starting feel like stepping into a room where something is humming behind the walls. You back away, and the hum grows to reclaim clarity. You need closure. Practice is not grand finishes every time, but honest states with boundaries. The brain recognizes. Name the loop's true size. Ambiguity keeps loops immortal. Work on project is a curse. Draft the 3 questions for the intro call is mortal. Write, in a line, the loop's next atomic step. If you cannot, the loop is really a cluster of loops pretending to be one. Split it. Smaller loops pull less. Install good enough stop points. Your brain craves closure, but closure can be staked, not finished product. Examples: rough pass complete, sources collected, outline skeleton done, email sent without attachment. Attachment tomorrow. Mark the state explicitly. In writing, closure is recognition. Externalize the loop. The mind keeps open items in volatile memory like juggling balls. Put them in a system you trust. A list you will see, a board you will update, a calendar block. Trust is key. If your system lies, your brain takes the balls back and you drop them on your face at 2 a.m. Choose a nightly reckoning. 10 minutes. Scan your day. Ask, which loops did I open? What state did I leave them in? What is the next atom for each? Write it. Put one atom on tomorrow's morning menu. Go to sleep knowing the ghosts have names and cages. Practice single loop. Closure sprints. Pick one dangling thing and walk it to a defined finish line. However, return the library book. Send the apology. Submit the expense. Close one ring. The sound of that click echoes. The other loops hear it and weaken. Beware. Ritualistic half-closing. We trick ourselves, moving items between lists, renaming, color-coding. Cosmetics feel like closure to the limbic system. The prefrontal knows better and punishes you with quiet contempt. Ask, did reality change? If not, you decorated your. Prison.open loops also interact with identity. Each dangling promise is a thread tied to your reputation with others and with yourself. Too many threads, and you feel like a marionette jerked by invisible hands. Procrastination cuts no strings. It only turns your head so you do not see your own knots dot or as mercy invisible endings. When you close small things honestly, the field quiets. The big work blooms because the soil is not crowded with weed roots of maybe. Silence returns the good kind, not the numb kind. You can hear your thought hit the page instead of the humming in the walls. Return to the mirror. Count the reflections. Behind your reflection, the outline blinking, the dish in the sink, the unfiled form, the unsent text, the unchecked warning light. One by one, they step closer when you pretend they are gone. Will you keep living in a house where every room hums with unfinished electricity? Or will you walk circuit by circuit, cut the current, and finally learn what your mind sounds like when it is not chasing its own dangling threads? The cage you cannot see, you do not avoid the task because it is hard. You avoid it because you have learned that effort does not matter. Somewhere, once, you pushed and nothing moved. The mirror remembered the humiliation and built you a cage. Out of conclusions, my actions do not change outcomes. I am just not the kind of person who finishes. A cage made of sentences is harder to notice than one made of bars. This is learned helplessness when repeated failure, randomness, or punishment trains the organism to stop trying, even after the door is open. But the modern version hides inside your explanatory style. When setbacks hit, do you explain them as global? I mess up everything. Stable. I will always be this way. And internal. It is my fault because I am fundamentally lacking. That triad is a perfect recipe for paralysis. Why act if the mirror says defective forever, everywhere? Helplessness is economical. It spends nothing and guarantees nothing. That guarantee feels safe compared to the risk of discovering where your ability really ends. So you put off the email, the draft, the call, because acting would test the belief that powerless. If wrong, you must change. If right, you will hurt. Delay lets you avoid both to crack the cage. You do not need slogans. You need evidence and precision. Run controllability scans. List the parts of the task under your control. Start time. First step, environment, duration. When you ask for help and the part's outside, others replies, grading, market response. Put a star beside the smallest controllable action you can execute now. Then execute it, not chasing success. Collecting proof that some levers move. Rewrite the story with surgical qualifiers. Replace "I always screw up" with "I struggled." On tasks with vague criteria when I did not ask for examples. The first sentence is a cage. The second is a map. Use competency crumbs. Break the task until the smallest unit is laughably easy. Completing it is not childish. It is reprogramming. Each crumb says, effort gives effect. Enough crumbs and the animal trusts walking again. Audit the randomness. Sometimes outcomes truly are noisy. Publishers, algorithms, other humans. Name the randomness so you stop blaming your bones. Then aim your standards at process. I will submit 3 pieces with defined quality bars. Not, I will be chosen. Process goals reclaim dignity, where outcome goals print shame. Install a rescue narrative. When the thought, this proves I am incapable, fires, reply with a prewritten line, or it proves the skill is learnable and I am early. It is not toxic positivity. It is a truer fork. Practice graduated exposure to effort. Choose a mildly threatening task, not the worst one. Start, finish, note what changed. Then level up. Rebuilding contingency beliefs, the felt sense that your actions push the world. Helplessness also breeds in isolation. Alone with the mirror, you confuse your opinion with reality. Bring in a witness, a friend who reflects specifics, a mentor who gives criteria, a community that tracks attempts, not just wins. The point is not praise, it is calibration. Calibration breaks hallucinations about your ceiling. There is no clean epiphany where the door swings and violins play. There is only an afternoon where you do one controlled thing and the cage does not move with you. Then another, then another. The mirror slowly relents the shape of cause and effect and stops, overlaying yesterday's failures on tomorrow's choices. Look again. The door is ajar. The bars were grammar. The key is in the sentence you will write about what happens when you act today. Will you keep letting a story you did not choose decide the next hour of your life? Or will you step through and discover how much of the room still obeys your hand? You swear there is more time. You do not delay because you love chaos. You delay because the future looks roomy. Tasks shrink in the mirror of imagination. Hours expand like elastic. This is the planning fallacy, your brain's habit of underestimating durations and overestimating your future discipline. It is not stupidity. It is optimism bias weaponized by vagueness. Inside your head, projects are frictionless. There are no printer jams, no unclear instructions. No, where did I save that file? The inside view, your private movie, edits out obstacles. The outside view, the one that counts, includes interruptions, rework, and your own human needs. You plan for the movie. You live in the mess. The planning fallacy pairs with a lie you adore. I will have more time, energy later. Later is a paradise where you sleep perfectly. No one texts. Your appetite is tame, and motivation floats like oxygen. Then you arrive. And later is the same animal in the same noisy world, with the same mirror. You do not fix this with pep. You fix it with reference classes, safety factors, and visible cost. Reference class forecasting. Ask, when I have done something like this before, how long did it actually take? Not how long it should have taken. How long it did. Use the median of your history or a peer group's. Then add contingency, 25 to 50% for unknowns. Not being negative. Moving from movie to documentary. Decompose to measurable verbs. Write chapter is infinite. Draft 800 messy words about X is finite. Units connect to time boxes. Time box reality. Instead of asking, how long will this take? Ask, what can I ship in 50 focused minutes? Then ship exactly then. Let scope flex. Hold the box. Pre-mortem the plan. Imagine it is the deadline and late. List the 5 most likely causes. For each, place a pre-counter move on your calendar or checklist. Clarify requirements early. Gather all logins. Schedule a buffer. Fear becomes logistics. Create stubborn finishes. Define finished enough for today before you begin. A rough pass, a checklist cleared, a data pull complete. Finishes end ambiguity, which ends drift. Expose the true cost. Put the task on a public board or a shared doc where every day of delay gets a visible mark. Not for shame, for price tags. The mirror discounts invisible costs. You must make them. Loud deadlines breed miracles because they relocate the future into the present's field of view. But you cannot depend on miracles. You meet gradual pressure that keeps the horizon near. Fill the week with explicit blocks, not hope. Hope is lovely at weddings. It is lethal in schedules. There is also gentleness in honest planning. It treats the you who will exist in 3 days as a person with limits, not a superhero on loan. It spreads pain across mornings so you do not bleed at midnight. It swaps drama for dignity. You can keep lying. I will do it tonight. I will catch up this weekend. Future me will be different. Or you can grow up. Future me is me. Me needs structure. The mirror hates this because it can no longer hide the bill. Pay it in small, on purpose. While you can still choose how when the day offers you the fantasy of elastic time. Will you keep letting plans be poems? Or will you build scaffolds sturdy enough to carry your real weight across the next 7 sunsets? Fog at the door, not stuck because the mountain is high. Stuck because the trailhead is fog. Procrastination loves ambiguity. When goals are fuzzy and criteria unclear, the first step feels like stepping off a cliff. Your nervous system prefers known pain to unknown contours, so it stalls until someone else draws the map or the deadline burns away the mist. This is ambiguity aversion and intolerance of uncertainty, deep biases that keep animals alive and keep modern humans circling. What if I start wrong? What if I waste time? What if I expose incompetence? The mirror exaggerates these what-ifs because it reflects shadows better than it reflects boundaries. The cure is not courage as performance. It is making the unknown specific and making the specific small. Define the deliverable in the form of a viewer. Who receives this? What will they see on the screen or page? Draft a 1-sentence definition of done in their language. A 2-page brief that answers A, B, C. If you cannot write it, you cannot do it. Ask for examples. Concrete kills fog. Split questions from actions. Most tasks contain both. How should this be structured? Open a doc. Make 2 lists. Questions to answer, actions to perform. Start with 1 tiny action that gathers 1 tiny answer. Open a doc and paste 3 example intros. Progress is a loop between. Asking and doing. Build a question stack. Top card. The next question you will answer. Below it. Candidates. When you stall, not failing flipping to the next card. The stack gives uncertainty a line to stand in. Prototype on purpose. Create an ugly, low-stakes version in 15 to 20 minutes. A sketch, a bullet outline, a mock email. A pseudocode chunk. The point is not quality, it is contact. Prototypes turn unknown into improvable. You cannot iterate fog. Clarify criteria with a 5-minute call. Ambiguity often survives because ashamed to ask. Shame is expensive. A short call that yields 3 bullet criteria can save a ruined weekend. Be the person who asks early and specifically. Write the bad first answer. For any unclear question, write a deliberately wrong but structured response. Wrong structure beats right silence. It draws feedback like a magnet. Ambiguity aversion pairs with perfectionism to produce the worst hybrid. If I cannot see it clearly, I cannot start. And if I start without clarity, I will be seen as incompetent. The antidote is public iteration within safe bounds. Send a scaffold with a note. Directionally right? Top 3 tweaks? Not performing mastery. Securing alignment. And when no one can clarify, when at the frontier your job is to choose a hypothesis and walk it for 1 block. Not forever. 1 block. At the end, Evaluate. What did reality say? Adjust. Hike the next block? This is how explorers live. Not with perfect maps, but with compasses and courage measured in minutes. Not months. Your mirror loves fog because fog delays judgment. But fog also hides glory. You cannot feel alive in a hallway of someday. You feel alive when your boot presses damp earth and a path appears because you made it appear. The door is still there, smeared with mist. Will you keep waiting for the world to draw your first line? Or will you move into the gray, make a wrong shape, and earn the right to make it better before the day is gone? The slot machine in your pocket. You think you lack discipline. Often, just outgunned. Your tools run variable reward schedules, the same behavioral machinery that trains pigeons to peck forever. Scroll. Maybe there is something spectacular. Refresh. Maybe there is a message. Click. Maybe there is a dopamine spike you did. Not earn, but still get. Your nervous system learns. Boredom gives device, gives jackpot, sometimes. Intermittent reinforcement is the stickiest glue known to behavior. This is incentive salience, how cues become magnetic. The red dot, the vibration, the sound. They do not just inform, they summon. After enough pairings, the cue itself becomes the reward. You reach for the phone not because content is good, but because reaching has been rewarded. Procrastination is not simply avoiding the task. It is answering a call your body has been trained to obey. You would not out-argue a slot machine. You will re-architect exposure and reroute rewards. Remove cues from the mirror. Turn off badges. Move the phone out of the work radius. Use grayscale. Log out. Make access a two-step ritual. Fetch device plus enter code. Each step is time to notice and choose. Limit variable. Preserve deliberate. Keep a narrow window where you check messages to completion instead of sampling endlessly. For example, 12:30 to 13 o'clock. Sampling teaches your brain to expect, maybe, every minute. Completion teaches it to expect later than done. Create competing jackpots inside the work. Track streaks publicly. Use timers with satisfying bells. Write a one-line win. Log at the end of each block. These are not childish. They are counter-conditioning. Wiring small, reliable rewards to actions that grow your life. Replace micro-hits with micro-rests. When the itch spikes, do not feed it content. Feed it oxygen. 1 minute standing at the window, a stretch, a sip, a slow inhale. Move the reward. From screen to body. The animal learns that urge gives rest, gives relief. Not urge gives slot, gives hangover. Quarantine novelty. Keep a later list for links and ideas. The mind panics when it fears losing interesting things. A container soothes it. Then crucially honor the container at day's end. Novelty has a scheduled feast. It does not need to raid your focus. Build clean in caps. Start blocks with a ritual that marks entry, water, timer, one ugly sentence. End blocks with a ritual that marks exit, one sentence state, next 2 steps, breath. Rituals bookend attention so the slot machine cannot ooze through the cracks. Not weak for wanting the spike. Human. The platforms are engineered to be casinos. The news cycles are designed as cliffhangers. The feeds are trained on your reflexes. Shame is not a strategy. Architecture is. There is a larger mercy in replacing counterfeit rewards with real ones. A counterfeit leaves residue jitter, regret, scattered thoughts. A real reward leaves quiet. After 40 minutes of honest work, the tea tastes different. The walk feels earned. The room seems wider. This is what procrastination promised and never delivered. Peace. Look at the mirror. It keeps flashing jackpots behind your reflection. You can let it rent your nervous system by the minute, or you can become the landlord. Charge distraction a toll, Protect the neighborhoods where your best minutes live and give your animal better food. When the red dot lights again like a small, private sun, will you circle it until your day burns away? Or will you let it die out behind the closed door of one finished block? The daydream trap you imagine a future where finished. It looks clean. It feels deserved. The mirror shows you triumphant, finally the person your private trailer promised. You bask there, and then you do not move. Positive fantasy gives you the taste of arrival without the price of the journey. Your body registers the dream as partial completion. Motivation leaks. The day ends. Nothing changed. This is the paradox. Envisioning success can reduce drive unless you also picture the obstacles between you and the finish. The brain that drinks victory early grows sleepy. Comfort is counterfeit when it is not paid for. You do not procrastinate because you do not want the outcome. You procrastinate because you mistook wanting for working and your nerves went slack. Enter mental contrasting, not hope alone, not hardship alone, but the deliberate collision of both. Wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. WOOP is the mnemonic. But the deeper truth is this. The mirror must reflect two images at once, the goal you ache for and the wall that stands there today. That tension creates energy. The dream pulls. The wall pushes. Between them appears a narrow path called action. Start like this. Wish. Name the concrete outcome that belongs to this day, not your biography. A rough 800-word pass of section 14. Outcome. Feel briefly why it matters. Not vague glory. Specific relief. If I ship 800 words, I sleep at a decent hour and trust myself more. Obstacle. Name the inner blocker you control, not the economy, not your boss. I will want the little rush of checking messages when the first sentence feels stupid. Plan. Write an if-then that binds cue to behavior. If I feel the itch to check, then I will stand, drink water, breathe for 10 seconds. Write the next ugly line. You just move from wishful cinema to choreography. Two more tools harden the path. Negative visualization, ancient, not grim. Briefly imagine failing by doing nothing today. Picture the exact cost. The late-night scramble, the throb behind the eyes, the self-contempt. Do not wallow, touch it, then return. Fear clarifies when it is bound to specifics. Then picture success paid for. Same you, same room, same desk, but the paragraph exists. Not applause. Quiet. Your nervous system learns to desire. Quiet over the jitter of fantasy. Process imagery, not end-state imagery. See your hands open the dock. Your cursor blink. Your jaw unclench after 3 sentences. Athletes rehearse the pull of the oar, not the metal. You rehearse the friction so you aren't surprised by it. Surprise is where most quitting lives. Beware the counterfeit of mental contrasting. Doom rehearsals without plans. That is rumination in a lab coat. The mirror loves that pain that costs nothing but time. If you imagine the obstacle and do not attach an if-then, practicing despair. If you attach an if-then, rehearsing leverage, there is a deeper mercy here. Mental contrasting respects your future by refusing to lull it with sugar. It treats goals like mountain weather beautiful, dangerous, indifferent to your slogans. It lets you be both tender and stern. I want this. It will be hard. Here is how I will behave when it is hard. That sentence builds a spine. Procrastination dissolves in the acid of specificity and the heat of a promise you can actually keep. Look at the mirror. The fantasy version of you is waiting again, inviting you to float a few more minutes above your life. Will you keep napping in a dream that dulls your muscles, or will you stare through the dream to the wall? Mark the first handhold and climb before the picture steals another hour you cannot afford. The lie of feeling ready, waiting for calm to begin. Calm seldom comes, or waiting for panic to ignite you. Panic burns too hot. Performance rises with arousal until it does not. Yerkes Dodson drew the curve a century ago. Too little activation, and you drift. Too much, and you fragment. Procrastination is often a bad bet on the future. Later, I will be in the perfect state. Later, the same animal, just more scared. The mirror misleads you in both directions. On lazy days, it reflects a couch and calls it destiny. On frantic days, it reflects flames and calls them fuel. The work needs just enough heat to soften resistance, not enough to melt attention. Stop bargaining with mood. Regulate state on purpose. Do not wait to feel right. Build right enough. Upshift for apathy. Brisk 2-minute walk, 20 to 40 jumping. Jacks, cold splash, bright light, energizing playlist for 60 seconds. Bold font on your start cue. Tell your body, it is daylight in here. Then aim at a small, sharp target. 1 paragraph, 1 set, 1 call. Apathy hates small, sharp targets because they puncture it. Downshift for panic. 4, 7, 8 breaths. Longer exhales, eyes on a fixed. Far point for 30 seconds, soften jaw, warm drink, dimmer light. Panic is a future hallucination. Far focus and long exhale drag you into the near world where your hands can move. Match the task to the band. When underactivated, pick mechanical tasks with visible progress. Formatting slides, sorting refs. When overactivated, choose tasks with narrow cognitive lanes. Rewrite a paragraph, not design the thesis. For deep creation, guard a mid-band with ritual and boundaries. Create state bridges. Hard start, easy end. Begin with the gnarliest micro piece. End with something gentle so your nervous system does not associate work with cliff fall. Easy start, hard middle. If frozen, start with the easiest subtask to enter flow. Then quickly pivot to the core once the engine turns. The bridge matters more than the origin. Tempo blocks. 10 fast minutes. Generate. 5 slow minutes. Refine. Repeat. Alternating tempos keeps arousal in the lane. Then install pressure correctly. You think you need panic to move. You need proximity. And stakes that are proportional, not catastrophic. Text appear. Sending you 200 words by 6:10. Set a countdown timer in view. That is a Ulysses string across your path, not a storm. Catastrophes make great stories and terrible systems. Finally, change the question. Not, do I feel like it? But what state would help this, and what's my 90-second recipe to reach it? Build a small menu card and tape it to your mirror. Upshift recipe A. Downshift recipe B. When the itch to postpone rises, you aren't a victim of vibe. A technician. People who work best under pressure often mean, I only work when the temperature is scalding enough to numb my skin. That is not talent. That is a coping style. The cost is memory, health, and the quiet pride that never needs an audience. You can keep boiling yourself to feel alive, or you can learn the craft of mid-dash heat dog. Look again. The mirror would not hand you perfect weather. It will hand you a body you can tune. Will you keep worshiping readiness like a focal god, or, well, you become the kind of person who builds the climate, steps into it, and moves while lesser mortals are still checking the sky. Too far to touch from far away, everything is simple. From up close, everything is complicated. Construal-level theory explains the trick. Distant things are encoded abstractly, values, categories, near things concretely, steps, tools, friction. You plan in poetry and hesitate in prose. Procrastination is the whiplash between your far self sermon and your near self's confusion. The mirror flatters your far self. Be disciplined. Build your legacy. The near self just needs a file name and a first verb. If the distance stays wide, you will keep living as a motivational speaker who never opens the document. Collapse the distance. Deliberately. Translate nouns to verbs. Research becomes skim and clip 3 abstracts. Get healthy becomes walk outside 12 minutes. Verbs summon motion. Nouns perform identity theater. Name the tool and the surface. Not work on the draft, but open draft _ v3.docx. In /chapters / and write 150 words under subhead B. Tools plus surfaces make the task grabbable. Embed coordinates. Time, place, duration. 10:10 to 10:40 at kitchen table, laptop only. Coordinates make intentions collide with reality. Intentions without coordinates are wishes in suits. Use the 2-sentence contract. Sentence 1. In the next 25 minutes I will, verb plus object plus constraint. Sentence 2. When 25 ends, I will close ritual. Write it. Speak it. Tiny contracts tame vast abstractions. Install first footprints. Leave cues you can literally step into tomorrow. Open the dock to the right page. Place shoes by the door with socks inside. Put the book on the pillow with a sticky note that says P183. Give stop at subhead 2. Reduce activation energy until a toddler could begin. Shrink the abstraction radius in your language. Ban, always, never, everything, someday. Use today, this, now, one. The animal responds to near words. You also need to protect abstraction in the right moments. Strategy, values, and why belong to. Separate blocks, not to the first 5 minutes of doing. If you mix them, you will use meaning as a narcotic and never lift a finger. Alternate altitude on purpose. Plan at 30,000 feet. Act at 3 feet. Do not sermonize at 3 feet. Do not reach for pliers at 30,000. There's a grief in coming near. The grief of discovering that sacred projects are built out of unsacred minutes. That grief tempts you back to distance, where you can feel grand without being accountable. Resist. The miracle of life is that moving a cursor across a line in a quiet room can alter the shape of your years. Grandeur wears sweatpants up close. The mirror will keep dressing distance as dignity, but dignity is proximate. It is measured in the small, concrete promises you keep in places no one sees. When the sermon starts booming in your head again, will you preach, or will you pick up the single tool the sermon keeps forgetting and make the next 3 feet real? The willpower myth, you say, my willpower ran out. Maybe, but research keeps hinting at something trickier. What you believe about willpower changes how fast it seems to drain, and the context changes how hard each unit of effort costs. If you think self-control is a finite tank, you behave like a driver guarding fumes. If you think it is renewable and cue-dependent, you reach farther before you feel empty. The mirror loves the tank story because it justifies delay. I am conserving, but often not conserving. Leaking through distractions, ambiguous goals, social friction, poor sleep, low glucose, no rituals. Blaming the tank hides the holes. Treat willpower less like fuel and more like a relationship between task, body, and environment. Then repair each side. Task. Reduce hidden difficulty. Ambiguous tasks cost more self-control than clear ones. Write the tiny speck. Decide the first verb. Identify the nearest friction and sand it. Increase immediate feedback. Add visible counters, timers, or checkboxes. Brains persist when they can't see progress. Sequence for momentum. Start with a high probability win to generate self-efficacy, the belief, I can move this. Confidence adds pseudo-fuel because it reduces threat. Body, stop running on scrap. Eat protein and fiber. Hydrate, move. You do not need a biohackers. Lab, just stop asking a dehydrated, immobile body to perform precision work. Leverage ultradian rhythms. Humans cycle in 90 to 120-minute energy waves. Plan intense blocks when your wave rises. Schedule admin in the trough. Swim with your current. Micro recovery beats macro collapse. 3 to 5 minutes of breathing, stretching, or looking at distant greenery between blocks can restore enough control. To avoid a binge break later. Environment. Friction engineering. Make the wrong things annoying. App blocks, phone in another room. The right things easy. Dock pinned. Tools pre-laid. Reduce should I, shouldn't I moments. Willpower is not for coin flips. It is for pushes. Social gravity. Proximity to focused people eases focus. Proximity to scattered people multiplies micro-calls on self-control. Choose your room with the same care you choose your goals. Meaning cues. Small symbols post a value, a quote, a photo of a person you refuse to disappoint can tilt state. In seconds, an animal wired for signals. Hang the right flags. Change the story you tell when you feel the fade. Instead of I am out, use I am between waves. I can do one small, ugly thing before I rest. Instead of I blew it, use I strayed. Here's my shortest path back. Stories are levers on physiology. Catastrophe burns glucose. Compassion conserves it. Be honest about limits without worshiping them. Yes, sleep deprivation and stress hammer executive function. Yes, trauma and neurodiversity shape attention in ways that aren't solved by posters. The answer is not self-contempt. It is better scaffolding and, when needed, professional support. Dignity is not found in pretending a machine. It is found in building a life where your particular mind can do particular work well. The mirror whispers that you are fragile and must wait for a perfect charge. The truth is humbler. You can often generate enough with a glass of water, a tiny plan, a closed door, and a promise measured in minutes. The tank may not be full. It does not have to be. Momentum produces its own power. When the next urge to delay arrives disguised as I am empty, will you keep worshiping a dashboard that lies, or will you fix the leaks, catch a wave, and move one honest inch while the world waits for a better version of you that never comes? When identity sabotages action, you think protecting time. Protecting a mask. Action threatens identity because action generates evidence, and evidence could contradict the story you use to stay intact. If you begin and falter, the mirror might say, not who you claim. If you begin and succeed, the mirror might say, then you have to keep being this person. Either way, the self you have rehearsed is at risk. So you stall not against the task, but against identity revision. Psychologists call it self-concept maintenance. People prefer choices that preserve a coherent story about themselves. Add imposter feelings, and the stakes multiply. If you suspect a fluke, then every start is an audit, and every finish is a subpoena. Better to hold the subpoena in the outbox than to read what it contains. Notice how you weaponize labels. I am a night owl, so afternoons are excused. I am an ideas person, so drafts are beneath you. I am meticulous, so you cannot submit until the pores are polished. Identities turn from compasses into handcuffs when they stop guiding behavior and start excusing avoidance. You do not need a new personality. You need a policy. The story you tell must be paid for in actions or it retires. Try this. Shift from noun to verb identity. Instead of I am a writer, use I write before phones for 25 minutes. Verbs can be done today. Nouns can be debated forever. The mirror respects verbs. Rehearse evidence updates me. Write the line where you can see it. Who I am is a rolling average of what I do. Then produce one tiny data point that pulls the average up. 10 lines count. One solved equation counts. A call returned counts. Identity becomes an earned statistic, not a posture. Practice safe exposure. Send a rough slice to a low judgment. Witness with a fixed response format. Two things strong, one question. Evaluation without cruelty teaches your nervous system that contact is survivable and often useful. Steal the imposter's power with specifics. Imposter fear thrives on fog. They'll discover I am nothing. Replace with, they might. Ask me about X and Y. Then write 3 bullets on X and 3 on Y. Prepare against reality, not fantasy. Create identity drift windows. For 2 hours a week, act as the person you claim you are, regardless of how fake it feels. That might mean showing up to a meet, publishing a small note, or practicing the skill on camera. Drift, then dock. Repetition converts costume to skin. Install an after ritual for praise and panic. After positive feedback, do a grounding task. Dishes, a walk, so you do not chase the high instead of building the work. After criticism, do one. Micro-correction to capture the signal while it is fresh. Rituals keep self-worth from swinging like a door. Identity also hides inside relationships. Sometimes you procrastinate because moving would alter your place in a group. The diligent one might lose sympathy. The funny one might become serious. The available one might become scarce. Your delay is not private. It is social glue. But glue can become a shroud. Name the fear aloud. If I change, they might treat me differently. Then ask the adult question. And if I do not change, what life do I keep losing? Here's a paradox that saves time. The quickest way to feel like the person you claim is to do something small before you feel like that person. Mood follows. Motion, because motion creates cues. Cues create state. State creates story. The mirror does not start honest. You have to fog it with breath, then wipe a new shape into being. Look again. The mask has protected you from humiliation and from expansion. It has kept you consistent and kept you small. When you feel the urge to delay to keep the story tidy, will you tighten the mask straps? Or will you crack it, let a draft of reality in, and allow the evidence of one honest minute to change the kind of you who gets to live here? Habits eat dragons. You want epic willpower. You need boring machinery. Procrastination looks grand. Its defeat is mechanical. Cues, routines, rewards over and over until the grooves are deeper than your moods. Dragons die from paper cuts called repetition. Start with the cue. Most people set cues they never see or cues that are noisy. Work after lunch fails because after lunch is an hour wide with 100 micro-temptations. Good cues are sensory, precise, and placed. Example: when I set the mug on the left side of the laptop at 9:05, I start a 25-minute draft block. Object plus location plus time. The animal understands that. Then the routine. Routines fail because they are too long, too vague, or not rehearsed. Design a starter sequence you can perform half asleep. Water gives timer, gives open doc, gives read last 3. Lines gives write 1 ugly sentence. Keep it under 60 seconds. Make the first move laughably easy so the nervous system experiences a win inside. The first breath, now the reward. Your brain is not noble. It is trainable. Immediate rewards beat abstract futures. Pair the block with a tiny pleasure. A satisfying bell, a check on a wall calendar, a 20-second stretch by a window, a favorite snack reserved for post-block only. Shame is useless here. We're teaching a creature to come when called. Glue the loop to identity, not slogans, receipts. Track streaks. Every X you draw is a piece of evidence that I keep small promises. Miss a day? Fine. Never miss twice. Turn the streak into a policy. I honor work before phones on weekdays. Policies survive moods because they offload decisions into identity. 2 upgrades. Habit stacking. Attach the new routine to a stable anchor after brushing teeth, placing the mug, closing the door. The anchor absorbs the friction. You do not summon motivation. You hitch a ride. Implementation intentions. Write precise if-then rules for predictable derailers. If I feel the itch to check messages, then I stand, drink water, and write the next ugly line. The rule converts temptation into choreography. Choreography beats will. Common failure modes. Scope creep at the start. The first 5 sessions are sacred. Protect ease. Do not make up for lost time. Underpromise, meet it, leave wanting. More. Desire is a tool. Build it. Reward drift. After a week, the checkmark stops tickling. Refresh rewards. Rotate bells. Vary the window you stare through. Try a different tiny snack. Boredom is a signal, not a sign. Identity inflation. Early. Success tempts you to double everything. Do not. Doubling stress tests a loop you have not myelinated. Grow 10 to 20% a week, not 200%. Systemic supports help. Habit contracts with a friend. You text block started and block done. No pep talks, no analysis, just receipts. Creating social friction against quitting and social lube for starting done environment. Signatures. 1 lamp that is only on during deep work. 1 chair for focus. 1 browser profile for creation. Context becomes a costume your body changes into without debate. Keystone habits. Sleep time, wake time, movement snack, water. When these wobble, procrastination finds purchase. When these hold, starting gets cheaper. Remember, the point of habit is not to remove the soul from work. It is to remove negotiation from starting. The soul is what you pour into the minutes after the negotiation is over. Look at the mirror. It loves your grand speeches and hates your checkmarks. It wants you to dream because dreams do not demand a chair. You can keep bargaining with dragons, telling them you will feel braver tomorrow, or you can install a little gate that clicks at 9:05. Walk through it and let 1,000 small cuts do what heroics never could. Which religion will you practice when the clock turns and the mug touches wood? The crowd in your head you delay not because the work is large, but because the imagined audience is larger. You picture their faces leaning in, waiting to stamp you with a mark. The moment you begin, the tribunal convenes. The expert who will notice the flaw, the peer who will resent the ambition, the past teacher who never approved. No wonder your fingers go numb. Not doing a task. Walking on stage, naked. 2 forces are at play. First, social evaluation threat your nervous system. Treats possible judgment like a predator in the bushes, flooding you with cortisol to either fight performatively or freeze entirely. Second, the spotlight effect. You wildly overestimate how much others notice and care. Everyone is starring in their own catastrophe. Your draft is a cameo at best. But try telling that to a limbic system that evolved in tribes of 150, where status could be life or death. Practical antidotes. Shrink the audience on purpose. Choose 1 real reader for this pass. Write their initials at the top. Tailor the tone to that human. The mind calms when it serves a person instead of appeasing a mob. Set evaluation boundaries. Decide which draft gets judged and by whom. Draft 0 is for you and 1 kind witness. Draft 1 is for the group. Until those gates, no mental rehearsals of criticism are allowed. When the tribunal appears early, label it premature evaluation, then redirect to the next verb. Build private wins. Finish small artifacts no one sees. A page of notes, a solved problem set, a cleaned data table. Private competence lowers the stakes of public attempts. Normalize exposure with reps. Publish frequent, low-stakes pieces, notes, snippets, microdemas. Vaccinating yourself with tiny doses of judgment so the big dose does not drop you. Rehearse self-distancing. When panic spikes, narrate in 3rd person. They are anxious because they care about the outcome. they can still write the next line. Self-distancing reduces limbic heat and improves self-control. Choose a standard and cite it. This is a first-pass brief that answers A, B, C in plain language. Standards and infinite games. Infinite. Games breed paralysis. And the deeper shift. Meaning over image. Ask the brutal question. Who benefits if I stay scared? Not you, not the work, not the person it can help. Fear protects an idol called reputation. Smash it gently by returning to utility. This section exists to reduce confusion for the next person. You can be useful before you are impressive. Useful people get to live more days inside their craft. Your mirror will keep projecting a stadium where there is only a desk. It will tell you the crowd is chanting, when in fact they are scrolling past their own storms. When your hands hesitate over the keys because you feel 10,000 eyes, will you keep bowing to the fiction of perfect reception? Or will you bow to the reality of one reader who needs one paragraph and write it now while the stadium sells? Snacks to phantoms? When comfort becomes a cage, you say, I've earned a break, and sometimes you have. But comfort has a cousin called self-licensing, doing a small good to justify a larger slack. You answered 2 emails. Therefore, you deserve an hour adrift. You skimmed an article. Therefore, the hard paragraph can wait. Add hedonic adaptation, and even high-quality comfort stops refreshing you. It just numbs you enough to forget drifting. You did not choose a rest. You slid into a surrender that the danger is not a single indulgence. It is the story that forms. I am fine, I will do it later. That sentence lays bricks. One day you wake to a hallway you cannot see out of and a schedule that is all cushions and no spine. Countermeasures are simple and stern. Earned ease, not endless ease. Define rest before you start. 25 on, 5 off. 3 blocks, then walk. Draft sent, then Netflix. Rename drift as theft. Rename rest as payment. Thieves hide. Payments are on the ledger. High-grade rest only. Replace slot machine breaks with body and soul breaks. Sunlight, water, human eyes, a nap, a page of fiction. Low-grade comfort leaves residue jitter, regret. High-grade comfort leaves quiet. Quiet is fuel. Close the loop before you soften. End a block with the 1-sentence state and next 2 steps. Then relax. Comfort after closure restores. Comfort. Before closure rots. Install hard starts after soft things. If you do indulge a show, a scroll pre-commit to a friction bridge back. Timer set before you start. Device in another room at the break's end. A friend waiting for your back-at-desk message. Pleasure without a bridge dissolves. Hours. Use the fresh start effect deliberately. Mondays, first of months, new notebooks. Temporal landmarks make behavior change easier. Tie a restart to a landmark and load it with a ritual. Then protect the first week as if it were a surgical wound. Audit your comfort narrative weekly. Write 2 lists. Comforts that truly restore versus comforts that simply remove awareness. Keep the first close. Quarantine the second to a strict window. Comfort also hides fear. If you never push, you never learn the actual edges of your capacity. You only learn the soft curve of your couch. Practice discomfort sprints short. Deliberate pushes against the resistance you avoid. Cold email. The first run. The messy sentence. The point is not masochism. It is demonstrating that controlled discomfort is survivable and often catalytic. There is mercy at the other end of comfort. Contentment. Contentment is earned quiet, no alarms, no dread humming behind the wall, because you met the day in honest minutes. Procrastination offers counterfeit contentment, momentary peace that invoices the night. You know the difference when you stand up. One leaves you light. One leaves you sticky. Look into the mirror. It will keep selling you soft now for hard later. and calling it kindness. You can keep buying. Or you can pay a small hardness now and walk out of the day with a mind that does not need sedation to sleep. When the next "I deserve it" whispers at your ear, will you cash it at the slot machine? Or will you take it to the bank of earned rest and let interest grow in the only currency that matters, time, not ashamed to remember? The cult of urgency, you think busy, just obedient? The mirror flashes red lights, pings, emails, quick requests, and your body salutes. Mere urgency effect. You prioritize tasks with deadlines over tasks with value, even when the deadline is trivial. Add Parkinson's law work, expands to fill the time allowed, and you have built a life where the shallow always fits and the deep never starts. Urgency is theater. It has costumes, badges, banners, countdowns, and sound effects, buzzes, dings. ASAP. Importance is quiet. It sits in the corner with your future. Your nervous system is a magnet for sirens. Your future whispers. Guess who wins the minutes that make a life? You check one more message to clear the decks. The decks never clear. You file one microtask to warm up. The warm-up becomes the workout. You promise yourself, after I get through this wave. The ocean does not end. The mirror shows motion and calls it momentum. You go to bed with a day of answered alarms and a soul that feels UNCONTACT a day dot. It is not moral failure. It is cue capture. Urgent cues trigger limbic reflexes. Important cues require prefrontal choice. Reduce the reflex. Increase the choice. Name a daily highlight. One outcome that would make today unregrettable if everything else burned. Write it where you cannot avoid it. Start the day by paying that debt before you pay anyone else's rent. Block maker time. 250 to 90-minute blocks where messages go dark. Treat it like surgery. Anything that can interrupt must pass anesthesia. Your calendar is a fence. Close the gate. Pin the runway. Start the day with a runway ritual. Water gives timer, gives open dock, gives read last 3 lines, gives one ugly sentence. No inbox until the first block ends. The world can wait the length of a sitcom. Batch the sirens. Schedule inbox councils at fixed times. For example, 12:30, 16:30. Outside those windows, the apps are concrete. Inside, move with speed and indifference. Not everything gets theater seating in your head. Shorten the leash on tasks. Give small. Items micro boxes 10 to 15 minutes and accept B-level outcomes. Small things swallow days. When perfectionism sneaks in wearing an urgent badge. Use a 2-tier list. Tier A, 1 to 3 important outcomes. Tier B, urgent trivia. B happens only after A if you reach for B first, not warming up. Hiding. Urgency addiction is identity too. You like being the one who replies fast, solves fires, gets thanked. Deep work offers fewer dopamine receipts and fewer spectators. You must choose whose applause you serve. The crowd's now, or your future's later. There is a clean pain to ignoring sirens. The first minutes of maker time feel like betrayal. Of colleagues, of etiquette, of a self-image built on responsiveness. Ignore them anyway. The second week feels like relief. The second month feels like a new life. Look at the mirror. It will keep dressing other people's priorities in emergency red and your own in gray. When the next pain tugs your hand away from the sentence that could change your next year, will you keep rushing to the stagehand's whistle, or will you stay with the scene that no one else can rehearse for you? Paralysis by analysis, you call it thorough. The mirror calls it fear disguised as research. You collect tabs like charms against failure. You optimize past the point of returns. You are not choosing. You are avoiding the cost of choosing. Analysis feels righteous because it hurts less than being wrong. Meanwhile, the clock eats the best light. 2 traps lock you in place. First, Maximizing the compulsion to find the best option creates opportunity cost grief for every alternative you discard. Second, your brain misjudges the expected value of information. You keep gathering low-quality data long after new facts are unlikely to change the decision. Panning silt for one last flake while the river carries your day to sea. You do not need less thinking. You need rules that end thinking at the right moment. Define a stop rule. Before you start, write, I will choose when I have a BC. When A, B, C are in hand, you must pick, even if your gut wants one more blog. If you cannot define A, B, C, not deciding self-soothing. Set a decision budget. 40 minutes for research, 10 minutes to rank, 5 to pick. Use a timer. Scarcity produces clarity. Choices love edges. Use the 70% threshold. When 70% confident and the decision is reversible, act. Amazon calls these two-way doors. Walk through, measure, return if needed. Save 90% certainty for one-way doors, rare high-stakes choices. Satisfice deliberately. Write your sufficient excellence criteria. Good enough if it delivers X by Y date with Z risks controlled. Satisficing is not laziness. It is adult. Triage in a world that will never run out of better. Compare only two. Humans handle pairwise trade-offs well. More than two invites madness. Reduce your field to two contenders. Flip a coin not to obey it, but to interrogate your reaction. If disappointed, you already chose. Prototype the choice. Do a one-block test. Live with option A for 25 minutes. No friction. Live with B for 25. Most of what you need to know is kinesthetic, not theoretical. Bodies decide faster than spreadsheets. Analysis paralysis also comes from ego protection. As long as researching, still the person who could deliver something perfect once I decide. Choosing makes you accountable to reality and exposes the scarier truth. All good roads have potholes, and you will hit some. Build rituals that favor motion over mythology. 2 bad drafts beat 1 great plan. You can fix writing. You cannot edit indecision. Timebox the perfect. 1 hour per week to optimize tools. The rest of the week, use the imperfect tools to produce imperfect work that exists. Ship on Tuesdays. A recurring publish day. Collapses the fantasy of the ideal moment. The calendar is reality's hammer. Let it swing. The point is not anti-intellectualism. It is anti-stagnation. Thought is a blade. Wield it. Do not polish it forever. The world does not pay you to have the sharpest knife in the drawer. It pays you to cut something that matters. Look into the mirror. It shows you tall stacks of information. Like armor. Will you keep hiding in the library of almost decisions? Or will you pick a door, accept the grief of the unchosen, and walk into a hallway you can change by touching it? You would not kill the wrong plan, not delaying because you have no plan. Delaying because you have the wrong plan and would not bury it. You invested in a method, a timeline, a tool. Now the plan fights for its life, using your pride as a weapon. Sunk cost fallacy. You throw future time after past time to avoid feeling the waste. Status quo bias. You prefer the pain you know to the adjustment you fear. Loss aversion. The sting of abandoning a bad approach feels sharper than the quiet gain of adopting a better one. So you keep tweaking a dead thing. You call it persistence. It is embalming. The cure is a funeral scheduled, merciless, and generous to the next plan. Write a stop-loss policy. Before you begin, define conditions that force a pivot. If I miss 2 Tuesday ships in a row using Method A, I will switch to Method B. Policies save you from the version of you who will rationalize anything at 11:47 p.m. Treat plans as hypotheses. Label them V1, V2. Add, because, after each. V1. Morning writing because fewer interruptions. Now you can test the because. If reality says no, your identity is not harmed. Your hypothesis retired. Subtract before you add. Most broken plans are overspecified. Do a via negativa pass. What can die without killing the outcome? Kill. One tool, one step, one approval loop. Absence reveals function. Use two-way versus one-way door framing. If a pivot is reversible, bias toward changing now. You do not need a committee to swap a task manager or simplify a template for a week. Spend your courage where reversals are costly. Save it where reversals are cheap. Hold a weekly plan autopsy. 10 minutes. Ask, what actually moved the project? What was theater? Where did the plan create friction I kept excusing? Write one surgical change for the next week. Iteration is humility in motion. Run a zero-based day. Once a month, rebuild your schedule from scratch as if nothing existed. What would you put back? What survives only by inertia? Zero-based days. Starve zombies. The emotional core. Abandoning a plan feels like self-betrayal because you fused it with identity. Remember the sentence, who I am is a rolling average of what I do. Good selves change good plans. Bad plans try to ossify good selves. You owe your future a bias towards salvageable truth, not sentimental loyalty. When a strategy fails, the failure is data you paid for with hours you cannot get back. Honor the cost by using the data fast. Look at the mirror. It wants you to protect yesterday's choices to avoid today's grief. When you hear yourself say, I've already spent so much time on this approach, or you keep throwing your brightest hours into the pit called, maybe it will magically work, or will you call time of death, write V2 and begin while the body is still warm enough to teach you something? Stealing tomorrow's brain, you postpone bedtime to reclaim me time, and you wake up a poorer person. Revenge bedtime procrastination is a protest against days owned by everyone else. It feels like freedom and functions like theft from the only self who can save you, tomorrow's. Sleep debt taxes the exact circuits you need to start. Working memory, impulse control, error monitoring. You think lazy in the morning. Neurochemically. Discounted. Cortisol rides high. Dopamine lurches. The prefrontal cortex whispers while the limbic system shouts. Then you blame character and add shame to fatigue. Now paying interest on interest. You would not fix this with guilt. You will fix it with structure that lands softly and night rituals that respect scarcity. Choose a protector hour. A nightly cough you keep like a religion. For example, devices down at 22:30. Make it social. Tell one person. Set a shared reminder. Protect it like you protect meetings with bosses. Your future is a boss. Install a wind-down choreography. 30 minutes of predictable cues. Dim lights gives hot shower, gives stretch, gives tea, gives paper book, gives bed. Repetition trains your nervous system to lower the drawbridge. Not a mind commanding. A body. A caretaker preparing an animal for night. Perform a closure ritual. List tomorrow's top 3. Prep the first footprint. Open dock. Lay out clothes. Write one reassuring sentence to future you. 8:10, 2 ugly paragraphs. Screenshot by 8:30. Closure quiets loops. Quiet invites sleep. Move blue light and novelty out of the bedroom. The phone sleeps outside. If alarm anxiety screams, buy a $12 analog alarm. If you need podcasts, use a timer that dies without your thumb. Bedrooms are for sleep and sex. Everything else is a thief. Replace counterfeit leisure. The scroll gives micro hits and macro hangovers. Choose high-grade rest, a slow page of fiction, a 5-minute stretch with low music, a brief call with a gentle voice, a lamp that says, the world is allowed to be dim. Real leisure leaves quiet. Counterfeit leaves static. Create morning friction that forgives. Wake time consistent within an hour. Light in the eyes within 10 minutes. Water. Movement snack. Make the first move tiny and kind, so mornings stop feeling like court dates. Sleep is an identity fight too. If your days are carved by others, nights become your only domain. Of course, you defend them. But freedom is not measured in hours awake. It is measured in hours you recognize yourself. Tomorrow you want a brain that can keep promises. Tonight you can give it. Save a sentence for the moment your thumb hovers over the app at 0:37. This is not rest. This is ransom. Then ask the opposite. What would feel like actual mercy? Put your head where mercy lives. Look at the mirror. It will keep telling you that one more video, one more feed, one more hour will restore what the day took. It would not. It will borrow from the only person who can change your life 8 hours from now. When the ache to reclaim time swells. After midnight, will you keep stealing from the self who has to pay your debts? Or will you put the world down, cross the small dark, and wake with a mind that can finally move when you ask? The noise you call thinking, not resting when you avoid. Rehearsing pain. Leave the task and the mind flips on its screensaver. Self-talk, scenarios, replayed slides, default mode network humming like a generator in a blackout. That network is useful for memory and planning, but in idling, untrained minds, it tilts toward rumination and worry. The mirror shows taking a break. Your cortex is chewing glass. Mind-wandering is not evil. It is just task negative. The more it dominates, the less you contact reality. Studies find wandering predicts lower momentary happiness because attention keeps colliding with comparisons, regrets, and what-ifs. You feel tired after procrastinating because your brain spent the hour running simulations with no output. That fatigue is real. It just did not buy you anything. Procrastination hijacks the DMN 2 ways. First, by replacing contact with fantasy, imagining the perfect outcome or the perfect disaster. Second, by keeping loops open so the DMN has endless material. You tell yourself you will think about it later. Then you think about it always. The hum becomes your weather. You would not silence a network evolved to chatter. You will give it a job and build boundaries. Anchor to one point. Choose a single sensory anchor for the first 60 to 120 seconds of a work block. The feel of keys under fingers, the rhythm of breath, the click of the timer. Not to be spiritual, just the transition state. The animal calms when it knows where to put its eyes. Park the thoughts. Keep a later pad beside you. Any idea, worry, or errand that bursts in gets captured in 6 words or fewer. The rule: once captured, it is out. Building a quarantine for novelty and for dread, so the DMN stops barging through the door. Close micro loops on purpose. End blocks with a 1-sentence state and next 2 steps. DMN hates unclear edges. Label the edge and it quiets. Diffuse the voice. When self-talk starts narrating doom, shift to cognitive diffusion. I am having the thought that I will embarrass myself. Adding, I am having the thought that moves you from actor to audience. Audience has choices. Switch the channel physically. Rumination is posture dependent. Slumped shoulders, shallow breath, near focus. Change stance, lift gaze to a far point. Take 5 slower exhales. Not breathing better. Toggling networks. Time box the mind. Give the DMN a scheduled 10-minute worry appointment later today. At 1840, I will write every fear about. Section 26. The brain respects calendars more than commands. Promising attention later to earn attention now. Train on off days. 10 minutes of attentional training, simple breath counting, will not make you a monk, but it will give you 2 extra seconds between thought and obedience. 2 seconds is a life. You may fear that quieting the noise will erase your edge. It would not. Flow, not frenzy, produces your best work. The signal is there under the static. The paragraph that wants to exist, the problem that wants shape. Your DMN can help once you feed it clean inputs, true questions, clear constraints, and return to the task after a short wander. A walk that begins after a completed block often yields answers. A walk that replaces starting yields guilt. Look at the mirror. It tells you, think a bit more, then you will be ready. You think a bit more, and readiness recedes. Or you can give the noise a chair by the door, assign it a time, and step into a block where thought touches wood and leaves a mark you can see. When the hum rises like weather again, will you drift inside it until the day drowns, or will you name it, park it, and choose one sentence that ties your mind back to the world? The math of motivation, you keep asking for motivation like it is weather. It is closer to arithmetic. A robust model says your drive to act approximately equals expectancy times value, divided by delay times impulsiveness. If any numerator starves or any denominator swells, you stall. You do not have a character defect. You have a bad fraction. Expectancy is belief you will succeed. Low expectancy sounds like, I do not know how. Last time went badly. This is above me. Raise it by scaffolding competence. Split to atomic steps. Seek one example. Ask one clarifying question. Do a tiny pre-run to prove the machine turns. Track completions where you can see them. Evidence at its expectancy dot value is felt importance now. It matters, in theory, does not move animals. Move it by bringing reasons close. Tie the task to near benefits. No late-night panic. Pride by 20 o'clock. Kind email to your future self. Pair the block with a small ritual pleasure to prime the limbic system. Connect the task to someone you refuse to disappoint. Value rises when it wears a face. Delay is distance to reward. The longer the wait, the colder the blood. Shrink delay by time boxing to short, finishable blocks, 25 to 50 minutes. Create proximal milestones. Rough pass by 10:40. Sources gathered by 11:30. Pay yourself immediately with a bell, a check, a stretch. Do not wait for the diploma to feel something. Feel the evidence of keeping a promise today. Impulsiveness is your susceptibility to lures. It is not sin. It is physics. Lower it by friction engineering. Phone in another room. Site blocks on by default. One-tab workspace. Single-purpose browser profile. Raise price, lower demand. Add social gravity. A co-working room. A friend expecting a screenshot at 18 o'clock. Animals move with the herd. Choose your herd dot. Now apply the fraction in real life. Your motivation is low. Ask, which term is killing it? If expectancy is 0.2, value is 0.6, delay is 3, impulsiveness is 2, the math is awful. Do not pray for willpower. Raise expectancy to 0.5, one example plus tiny pre-run. Raise value to 0.8, tie to near relief plus pair with ritual. Cut delay to 1, closer milestone. Drop impulsiveness to 1, friction. Suddenly, the fraction lives. Pre-compute. The fraction before sessions. Write 4 quick numbers, 0 to 1 for E, V, 1 to 3 for D, I. Change one lever before you begin. Numbers prevent magical thinking. Beware fake value, ego bait. Vague legacy and fake expectancy pump up speeches with no proof. The mirror loves those because they feel grand and cost nothing. The fraction punishes lies. It rewards receipts. 2. Power-ups. Temptation bundling for value and delay. Tie a desired indulgence. Playlist. Fancy tea. Favorite seat by the window. Exclusively to the task. The animal learns start gives, soothe gives. Small finish soon. Implementation intentions. For impulsiveness. If-then rules for predictable lures. If the urge to check messages hits, then stand. Sip water and write one ugly line. You are turning a denominator spike into a numerator move. When the work is existentially meaningful, purpose. Career. Do not dump all the meaning into the minute. Meaning is heavy. Use light meaning. I protect my future for the next 25 minutes. Then let deep meaning appear in the exhale after you deliver. The arithmetic is not poetry. It is plumbing. Fix the leak that is flooding the floor standing on. When your mouth says, I just need to be disciplined, translate it to either E or V is low or D or I is high. Which lever can I touch in 90 seconds? That question is adulthood wearing boots. The mirror will keep selling you a story about special days when motivation descends like weather. But weather is unreliable, and roofs are built in the rain. When the fraction falters in the next hour, will you keep waiting for a mood, or will you move a number and prove to yourself, again, that arithmetic beats mythology? The war between your goals not only resisting a task, resisting another goal that the task threatens. Work late versus be present with family. Publish boldly versus avoid criticism. Advance career versus preserve belonging. Goal conflict is not weakness. It is architecture, multiple drives competing for the same minutes and identity. Until you name the war, you will fight it with motivation, which is a plastic sword dot at approach avoidance conflict. The same goal both attracts and repels. You want the paper finished, you fear being judged. You want the raise, you fear exposure. At long distance, approach wins hope. Near the door, avoidance wins threat. You oscillate, call it procrastination, and hate yourself for physics. Problem. Treat this like strategy, not morality. Map the conflict explicitly. Write the approach value and the avoidance cost for the target goal. Then list the competing goal the avoidance is serving: rest, safety, affiliation. You cannot negotiate with shadows. Put factions on the table. Goal shield on purpose. During a block, create inhibitory cues for rival goals. Social apps exiled, door closed. Do not disturb, visible. Calendar status set to in surgery. Shielding is not rudeness. It is stewardship. Budget for the rival. Do not pretend the competing. Goal vanishes. Pre-schedule time for it. Family dinner. Messages at 16:30. Decompression walk. When the rival has a slot, it stops hijacking others. Detox the avoidance cost. Reduce what repels. Evaluation anxiety gives draft to a kind witness first. Boredom gives pair the block with ritual comfort. Overwhelm gives split to atoms, not eliminating fear, shrinking its radius. Design dual wins. Seek actions that advance both goals. Write in a quiet room at home to be physically present while moving your project. Walk with a partner to combine exercise and connection. Dual wins are rare, but golden. Install pre-commitment for the approach side. Text a friend. 200 words by 1815. Screenshot coming. Micro stakes tilt the tie in favor of approach. Approach avoidance also lives inside identity. If I change, will I still belong? Sometimes no. Growth is selective belonging. You leave one circle to join a better one. The pain is real. So is the rot of refusing to leave a room that is shrinking you, when conflict remains irreconcilable. In one day, play seasons, not minutes. Give a week to push the paper hard. The next week, bias family or recovery. Then switch. Humans cannot maximize every axis simultaneously. They can rotate excellence. And when the tug returns mid-block, rehearse this line. Avoidance serves a good goal, safety. But right now safety is not threatened by writing one ugly paragraph. Name the good to disarm the lure. Name the boundary. To move. The mirror prefers moral melodrama. I am lazy. Because melodrama absolves you from planning. You can keep playing that part, Or you can admit you are an alliance of goals that need treaties, borders, and a shared calendar. When the next oscillation hits at the doorway, will you sway until the day breaks, or will you shield, budget, and step where you said you would? When work turns weightless, you think productivity is pushing a boulder. Sometimes it is riding a current. Flow emerges when challenge matches skill. Goals are clear, feedback is immediate, and self-consciousness drops. Time dilates. Effort becomes absorption. Procrastination evaporates because there is nothing to avoid. There is only the next move, but you do not find flow. You engineer its preconditions. Set a single, clear target per block. Draft 300 messy words in subsection C, not work on the chapter. Clarity is oxygen. Tune the challenge. If the task feels too heavy, reduce scope or increase scaffolding. Outline, example, pair work. If it feels too light, raise the bar slightly. A timer, a word target, a constraint like no adjectives, a public share. Flow lives at the edge, not panic, not boredom. Create fast feedback. Use visible counters, word count, checklist. Read aloud every 3 sentences. Or run a quick test. Brains persist where signals are frequent. Seal the channel. Interruptions kill the ascent. Phone outside. One-tab profile. Noise that masks language or silence. Door literally closed. You are building a sealed pipe where attention can pressurize. Prime. With a ritual. Same mug, same lamp, same first song, same sentence. We go under now. Rituals reduce startup friction and tell the limbic system, this state is familiar. Exit with a cliff. Stop midline or mid-idea and leave a note. Next, explain X with example Y. Ending on a cliff eases re-entry. Your mind keeps chewing pleasantly in the background and delivers a starting foothold. Next session. Flow has enemies. Self-monitoring, unclear stakes, and premature evaluation. If you keep asking, is this good? You kick yourself out of the channel. Replace with what's next. Good comes later in edits. Now as for movement. Not every block will sing, but you can make more blocks sing by stacking triggers. Time consistency. Same hour daily creates a circadian groove. Place signatures. One desk for deep work, one for logistics. Body readiness. Small movement plus water 5 minutes before. Constraint play. Give yourself playful limits. Explain this like I'm 5. Use only short sentences for 10 minutes. Remove adverbs. For one pass. Constraints increase engagement and reduce perfection paralysis. Social flow. For some work, pair with a partner, silent co-working, or live coding writing. The presence of another focusing animal deepens your own focus. Flow is not a luxury state reserved for prodigies. It is a middle temperature anyone can reach when the channel is sealed and the slope is right. You have touched it before in sport, in a conversation, in a game. Your job is to build the channel deliberately, not mourn its absence. Look at the mirror. It says work is a grind or a gift bestowed by muses. The truth is more generous and more demanding. It is a craft of conditions. When the next block begins, will you keep waiting for magic, or will you seal the pipe, set the edge, and move until time forgets its name? The bandwidth tax you. Think bad at planning. Often just broke not of money but of mental bandwidth. Scarcity of time, money, certainty, energy shrinks your cognitive aperture. The mind tunnels on near threats and neglects distant payoffs. You chase the bill due today, the message pinging now, the small flame in the trash can, while the slow fire in the wall eats the house. Procrastination is not apathy. It is triage performed by a starving brain. Mullinathon and Shafir called it the scarcity mindset. When bandwidth is taxed, executive function degrades. Working memory drops, impulse control loosens, foresight narrows. You make present bias bargains because the tunnel erases the horizon. The mirror shows only what is inches from your nose, then sneers when you fail to honor what you cannot see. This is why you cannot make time to start important work when your day is a hailstorm of errands and obligations. Scarcity manufactures emergencies. Emergencies reward tunneling. Tunneling punishes anything that requires setup, abstraction, or patience. Not dumb, underwater. You do not escape by yelling focus. You escape by fattening bandwidth and lifting tasks out of the tunnel. Pre-commit to a daily protected block for your highest leverage work. When bandwidth is least taxed, often morning. Make it small, 50 to 90 minutes. Make it sacred and build a moat. Phone out, door shut, apps blocked. One sane hour can subsidize 12 chaotic ones. Front-load clarity the night before. Define one outcome, rough 600 words for subsection D. First verb, first cue. When the day's scarcity hits, your future self finds a pre-built path, not a fog bank. Bundle friction. Leave your tools primed dock open to the right page. Shoes by the door with socks inside. Sources pinned. Scarcity hate setup. Remove it. Reduce. Cognitive load in the environment. A single tab workspace. A clear desk with one object that signals the session. A dedicated deep work profile. Each extraneous object is a toll booth collecting pennies of attention until too poor to drive. Create scarcity shelters. These are fallback tasks for bad days that still move the project. Outline instead of polish. Gather sources instead of analyze. Rewrite a paragraph instead of draft a chapter. Bad day progress is how long projects survive real lives. Automate trivial but costly decisions. Same breakfast, same first playlist, same start ritual. Scarcity steals from decision budgets first. Stop paying for breakfast with prefrontal cortex. Install bandwidth top-ups, water, a brisk 2-minute walk, a minute of 4, 7, 8 breathing, a look at something far away. These are not indulgences. They are microloans to a bankrupt cortex. Quarantine bill collectors, email, admin. 2 short counsels, for example, 12:30, 16:30. Outside those windows, sirens cannot enter the shelter. If real emergencies exist, set a whitelist. Otherwise, your life becomes other people's calendar. Scarcity also distorts identity. You start believing you are a last-minute person when you are just a person living at the wrong altitude all day. Your best self needs oxygen space free of alarms long enough for a sentence to complete, a thought to crystallize, a plan to bond. There is tenderness in admitting that much of your delay is poverty of bandwidth, not lack of virtue. The fix is humble. Fewer doors, earlier choices, smaller promises, richer mornings, quieter rooms. Not Instagrammable. Effective. Look at the mirror. It keeps reflecting a single urgent flame and hiding the structural fire. Will you keep sprinting through the tunnel until it becomes your only world? Or will you carve one protected corridor through which your future can finally send a message you can hear? You cannot tell you what to do. You make a plan and immediately want to break it. No boss yelled. No parent scolded. Still, a voice rises. You cannot make me. That is psychological reactance, a defense of autonomy triggered not only by others, but by your own rules. Inside you, 2 selves negotiate. When one issues commands, the other flips the table. Reactance is a survival reflex against coercion. But when turned inward, it becomes self-rebellion. The plan becomes the oppressor. The impulse becomes freedom. You procrastinate not because the task is impossible, but because the plan feels like a cage. The mirror shows a calendar square, and your nervous system sees handcuffs. You cannot brute force a free creature. You must design for autonomy while still honoring commitments. Offer yourself real choice inside blocks. 2 acceptable tasks, 1 chosen. At 9:15, I either draft subsection C or edit yesterday's paragraphs. Autonomy starves reactance. Progress does not care which path you pick. Write plans as invitations, not edicts. At 10:40, I get to protect 25 minutes for the chapter. Language shifts physiology. Have to triggers guards. Get to opens the gate. Negotiate constraints with your animal self. Shorter sprints. Softer start cues. Rewards that feel immediate. If the rule feels like a stranger's law, your body will dodge it. Use if then flex. If I feel the revolt at minute 5, then I will stand, breathe 10 seconds, and choose between 2 micro moves. Choreographing the moment of mutiny. Co-create. Rules with future you. Write a brief note in second person. I am giving you a 50-minute shelter because I hate your midnight panic. In return, you will give me the first 5 minutes without phones. Reciprocity converts rules to relationship. Embed play. Constraints that feel like games. No adjectives for 10 minutes. Explain like I am 5. Convert duty to. Experimentation. Play is autonomy in disguise. Reactance also spikes when plans feel like identity threats. If I follow this schedule, I am no longer spontaneous, caring, available. Make identity congruent policies. I am a generous collaborator who answers messages after my highlight block. I am a creative who protects weird mornings. Keep the self. Change the sequence. And when the rebel persists, give it clean outlets. A deliberate no-plan hour each week. A medium where you improvise without stakes. Sketching, free writing, noodling on guitar. The rebel is useful. It protects your strangeness. Just do not let it burn your deadlines to make a point. There is a mature freedom on the far side of this fight. Self-governance, the ability to make a rule you actually follow because it feels chosen. That is adulthood, not obedience. Look at the mirror. It will keep dressing your gentle contracts as tyrannies so it can play hero by breaking them. Will you keep rescuing yourself from plans you designed to protect you, or will you write kinder laws, pass them by consensus, and live one quiet block under your own flag? The shame spiral. You miss one block, and the day falls down the stairs. What the hell? You mutter and push the rest. That is the abstinence violation effect, a lapse interpreted as total failure, which licenses more lapses. In diet studies, 1 cookie becomes the whole box. In work, 1 missed session becomes a lost week. Shame, not the slip, wrecks you. Shame is metabolically expensive. It narrows attention to the self, depletes working memory, and increases avoidance. You seek relief from the sting and find the nearest anesthetic scrolling, snacking, busy work. The anesthetic creates residue. Residue raises friction. Friction invites more avoidance. You call it laziness. It is self-punishment by drift. The antidote is rupture and repair. Expect slips. Then re-enter fast with gentleness and precision. Pre-write the bounce-back script. When I miss a block, I do the next block at half length with half scope. Missed 50 minutes? Do 25 on a micropiece. The rule converts catastrophe to choreography. Name the lapse without verdict. A block was missed because X. Facts without adjectives. Then choose 1 controllable tweak. Move the phone. Prep the dock at night. Eat earlier. Shame repeats. Tweaks change futures. Keep a never twice policy. Lapses are singular by design. You defend the second block. Like a life. It often is. Practice self-compassion the way researchers mean it. Common humanity. Everyone lapses. Mindfulness. This hurts, and it is a state. Kindness. Okay, animal, we will make this smaller. Compassion is not permission. It is fuel that keeps the prefrontal online. Install micro-atonements. Not penance, but signals of return. A tidy desk, a glass of water, a single sentence written. These are physical markers that say the break ended. Bodies believe. Rituals more than vows. Track streaks honestly. Record blocks completed and recovered. Recovery streaks build identity. I return quickly. This is the opposite of perfectionism. It is resilience with receipts. Shame spirals also come from moralizing productivity. You tie work to worth. Every slip becomes a referendum on your right to exist. Untie them. Worth is given. Work is practice. When you make them one, you protect worth by avoiding work. That is the cruelest bargain of all. There is a darker loop. Self-sabotage disguised as fate. A part of you may prefer the familiar narrative, I always blow it, because it saves you from the terror of discovering your actual limits. If that is you, say it aloud. Drag it into the light, then shrink the next promise until success is boring. Boredom is better than myth. Look at the mirror. After a slip, it will amplify your face until it fills the frame and whispers that you are the problem. You are not. You are a person who missed one small thing in one small hour. Will you keep turning minutes into morality and drowning in the flood? Or will you step onto the nearest rock half a block, one ugly line, and climb out before the current writes your day for you? Work that does not feed you. You delay the tasks that starve your needs. Self-determination theory says motivation blooms when three needs are met. Autonomy, I choose. Competence, I can. Relatedness, I belong. Starve any of the three and energy withers. You procrastinate not because weak, but because the work is nutritionally empty for the psyche doing it. Check each need. Autonomy. Does the task feel chosen or imposed? If imposed, reactance rises. Section 30. Convert imposition to authored constraints. Choose the hour, the method, the sequence. Craft one line of why you care independent of someone else's orders. Finishing this brief lets future me sleep and helps this client stop bleeding time. Tie it to a value you own. Competence. Do you feel capable today? If not, split two atoms until the skill you have can move them. Gather one example. Ask one question. Do a 5-minute pre-run to prove the machine turns. Post a small done where your eyes can see it. Competence is built from visible inches. Invisibility breeds learned helplessness. Relatedness. Does anyone share this with you? Lone wolfing turns many tasks cold. Add a human. A co-work hour. A friend expecting a screenshot. A quick, does this direction make sense? With a kind witness. Belonging is not coddling. It is oxygen for fragile starts. Now redesign the work to feed the needs. Autonomy by menu. Give yourself two acceptable paths per block, outline versus polish. Choice reduces inner rebellion. Competence by gradient. Order subtasks like stepping stones, each slightly harder. Celebrate progression, not only completion. The animal loves gradients. RELATDNES by rhythm. 2 solo blocks, then 1 check-in. Publish a micro update on Tuesdays. Social touchpoints prevent drift without flooding the channel. Meeting cues. A photo of someone who benefits from the work. A sentence of purpose visible in your start ritual. Symbol approximately equals state. When a task cannot be redesigned. Bureaucracy. Chores. Attach nutrition from outside. Autonomy. Choose when and where. Pair with a playlist reserved for this chore. Race a timer to make it a game. Competence. Measure throughput to show improvement. Emails cleared. Forms filed. And set a modest personal best to beat next session. Relatedness. Do it near a focused person. Text done to a friend. Join a silent Zoom room. Beware the counterfeit fix. I will wait until I feel autonomous, competent, connected. Feelings follow evidence. Change the setup, then the feeling arrives late and obedient. There is a relief in admitting that the problem is not you. It is the design. People thrive under different mixes. Neurodivergent minds, trauma-shaped bodies, energy that peaks at odd hours. These are not excuses. They are parameters. Respect them, and you will start more, finish more, and hate yourself less. Look at the mirror. It will keep calling you lazy for hating work that starves you. Do not argue with the insult. Change the meal. When the next flavorless task stares back, will you keep chewing and spitting and blaming your mouth? Or will you season the hour with choice, skill, and a human hand on the table, and finally eat something that lets you move? Your body's vote, you think, deciding with thoughts, deciding with pulses. The body speaks first: tight chest, knotted gut, dry mouth, and the mind writes footnotes that sound like reasons. When the task approaches, your interoceptive radar signals from inside reports turbulence. You misread turbulence as prophecy. This will go badly. So you turn away, calling it logic. It was a heartbeat. Antonio Damasio called them somatic markers, bodily feelings that tag options with good, bad, avoid, approach. These tags help you choose fast. But when the tags get noisy after stress, sleep debt, trauma, caffeine, your inner dashboard throws false alarms. Drafting a paragraph is not mortal danger. Your diaphragm does not know. Your mirror shows a blinking cursor. Your body feels a cliff. Some of you learn to mute the dashboard. Alexithymia, difficulty identifying and describing feelings, turns the body's language to static. You do not know anxious. You just cannot focus. You do not know ashamed. You just feel tired. When the body's vote goes unread, it governs anyway. Procrastination becomes a mysterious steering. You drift without clear cause and blame character to explain the wake. You do not need therapy slogans to change this, though good therapy helps. You need a translator between pulse and plan. Name the signal in concrete words. Not bad. Try tight chest, hot face, rope in stomach. Labeling recruits prefrontal circuits. You move from weather to map. Map beats weather. Ask the function. The body is not trying to sabotage you. It is trying to protect you. Tight chest equals threat detection. Heavy eyelids equals low resource. Stomach rope equals exposure risk. When you see the protective intent, you can negotiate. Thank you. We will go small and safe. Create a pre-start body ritual. 60 seconds of slow exhales. Longer out-breaths, calm, shoulders down. Eyes on a far point to anchor vision. Drink water. Not chasing vibes. Tuning the instrument. Asterisk. Use urge surfing when escape spikes. Feel the urge as a wave. Rise gives crest, gives fall. Approximately 90 seconds. Ride without obeying. Set a timer. Most urges peak and pass if you do not feed them with apps. Surf 3 waves and the coastline changes. Pair state with task deliberately. If nerves are high, choose narrow, mechanical steps. Formatting, headings, reference hunts. If flat, choose generative play. Messy sentences, mind maps. Match the muscle to the moment. Install a body check-in at minute 5. Ask, what changed? Often the somatic marker softens once contact begins. Write the new readout. Teach the animal. Contact reduces fear. You can also seed helpful markers. Reserve a comfortable sweater, a particular lamp, a scent for work blocks. Over time, the body learns. Lamp on gives breath, slows gives keys move. That is classical conditioning in your favor. The slot machine in your pocket conditioned you already. Condition back. If your markers are persistently loud, panic, dissociation. Freeze. This is not a moral failure. It is a nervous system stuck in survival mode. Allowed to bring in professionals to widen the window of tolerance with care. Therapy, meds, somatic work. Big lives are built by regulated bodies more than heroic speeches. Look in the mirror. Do not just see the face, notice the throat, the shoulders, the hands. They are voting. You can keep pretending decisions are made by words alone and let your unconsulted body veto the day in ways you would not understand. Or you can give it a minute, listen, and craft the smallest plan it can accept without revolt. When the next wave rises, will you drown inside an unnamed sensation? Or will you name it, write it, and write the next line while the water calms around you? The glass ceiling in your head, you call yourself scattered. Just over capacity. Working. Memory, the scratchpad that holds bits while you think can juggle only a handful at once. When you face a task that exceeds that handful, you feel stupid. You delay to escape the humiliation. The mirror shows a simple command, write the report, but your mental desk is covered in unstacked papers. Criteria, sources, audience, tone, outline, citations, the vague dread of not knowing enough. Cognitive load theory splits the strain into intrinsic load, the task's inherent complexity, extraneous load, bad presentation, clutter, unclear instructions, and germane load, the effort of building structure. Procrastination spikes when extraneous noise steals the capacity you need for structure. You quit not because the mountain is high, but because your pack is full of bricks that aren't the mountain. Shrinking load is a meaningless craft. Externalize everything that does not need to live in your head. Write the criteria at the top of the doc. Paste the rubric. Pin the key sources. If it must be remembered, put it in the world, not your wetware. Chunk the chaos. Break tasks into schemas, meaningful units your mind can treat as one. Introduction remains abstract. Hook 2-3. Lines gives context. 3 bullets gives claim. 1 sentence is a chunk your mind can hold. Build checklists with verbs. Verbs lighten load. Use worked examples to scaffold. Before you write, read a strong exemplar out loud. Copy its skeleton. They opened with a question, then gave a number, then a metaphor. Not plagiarizing. Stealing structure to free capacity. Kill extraneous load. Clear your desk to one tool. Hide other tabs. Full screen the doc. Decide fonts once. Decide citation style once. Every micro choice taxes the scratchpad. Burn taxes, not brain. Sequence difficulty. Start with the subpart that has the highest clarity per effort. Early wins build germane. Load the productive effort of building a mental model by giving your model something to attach to. Batch similar micro steps. Flag all quotes in one pass. Drop them into a staging area, then paraphrase later. Switching compresses memory. Batching preserves it. Use the 2-slate method. Slate A holds your active sentence. Slate B is a capture pad for stray thoughts, a counterargument, a word you want later. This prevents, do not forget, loops from occupying working memory as hostages. Write with constraints to reduce search space. Short sentences for 10 minutes. No adjectives first pass. Constraints lower cognitive load by narrowing choices. Narrow choices let you move. Rest the buffer properly. When your head jams, do not doom scroll. Stand. Stare far. Breathe for 60 seconds. Flushing the cache, not escaping. Then re-enter with one small verb. And when you feel the shame sneaking in, why is this hard for me? Remember, the browser with 40 extensions installed is slower than the fresh install. You have a life in your head, memories, worries to DOS. Of course, the scratchpad fills. The fix is not contempt. It is design. The mirror will keep insisting the command, just focus, is sufficient. It is not. Focus is the result of load management, not the cause. When the next complex task looms, and your thoughts start dropping like plates, will you stare into the glass and call yourself names, or will you clear the table, stack the plates into bundles, and carry one bundle across the room at a time? Pressing reset without lying you. Crave clean slates. Mondays, birthdays, new notebooks. Temporal landmarks create a fresh start effect. They carve time into chapters and let you leave the last mess on the previous page. Right to use them. Wrong to worship them. Fresh starts can catalyze action or become sanctuaries where you delay until the magic date arrives, and then arrives again because you missed it. The psychology is simple and sharp. Landmarks, New Year, semester, even after lunch. Q. A temporal self-distinction. Old you versus new you. More willing to invest in new you. But the effect fades unless you signal the new identity with behavior. Otherwise, landmarks are costume changes on a statue. How to reset without lying. Name. The landmark and the pledge. It is the first Monday of the month. For the next 4 Mondays, I do 50-minute blocks before messages. Write it where you see it. Landmarks need contracts. Install a ritual that marks the border. A song you only play at the first minute. Of a fresh block, a phrase you speak. We go under now. A lamp you switch from warm to bright. The nervous system respects ceremony. Shrink the inaugural promise. The first chapter should be thin. Do not attempt a life overhaul at midnight on January 1st. Choose one habit, 1 hour, 1 deliverable. Early success is a signal amplifier. It broadcasts, "This is real," back to you. Write a bridge from the old. List the 3 lessons from the last chapter. What hurt, what worked, what to stop. Fresh starts that erase the past become amnesia loops. You repeat mistakes with cleaner paper. Stack landmarks when motivation wanes. Midweek slumps respond to micro landmarks. The 2 p.m. restart, post-walk reset, new tab, new. Rule. Many small doors beat one mythic gate. Publish a receipt to a witness. 2 sentences. What you did today that honors the reset and what you will do next. Visibility hardens identity. Your calendar can also become a landscape of honest. Restarts. Quarterly weeks for deep pushes. Monthly zero-based days to rebuild your schedule from scratch. Section 23. Weekly ship days. Daily highlight blocks. Each is a ridgeline to walk. When you fall off, you climb back at the next ridge, not next year. Beware the counterfeit. Reset. Burning your tools. Deleting apps. Buying stationery you would not use. If reality does not change minutes, actions, receipts, you decorated the cage. True resets are behavioral, not aesthetic. And when you do miss the first Monday, because life, do not wait for the next first of anything. Start mid-sentence. Declare, it is a fresh start at 16:10 on a random Thursday. The universe does not certify your beginnings. You do. The mirror loves the theater of beginnings. It will keep offering you pristine tomorrows to avoid muddy todays. You can keep believing in immaculate hours that never arrive, or you can press reset in the middle of a day no one will remember, with a promise small enough to keep and a ritual strong enough to repeat. When the clock turns again, will you wait for a holy date, or will you make this minute sacred by acting inside it? Tie yourself to the mast discipline fails. Rope's work. Odysseus wanted the siren's song and knew it would kill him, so he pre-committed, ears plugged for the crew, body lashed to the mast. He designed a future where desire could not win. You keep promising to start when I feel strong. Feeling? Strong is a siren, beautiful, rare, unreliable. Tie yourself. Pre-commitment takes 2 forms. Hard constraints. You cannot do the wrong thing. And soft constraints. It is costly to do the wrong thing and rewarding to do the right. Most people try neither. They bargain with impulses trained by casinos, Section 12, and wonder why they lose. Build your mast. Hard locks. App site blockers on schedules. A second device with only work apps. Phone in a time safe. Router level. Blocks. Office door literally locked during the block. Commitments that forfeit money if you miss. Deposit with a friend. Donation to a cause you hate. Hard locks offend pride and protect futures. Default friction. Make distractions opt-in, not. Ambient. No badges, no auto logins, two-factor on entertainment accounts, grayscale screens. 10 seconds of extra steps is often the difference between reflex and choice. Soft stakes. Text a friend. 200 words by 1810. Silent co-working rooms where cameras stay on. A public, done for today, feed. Social pressure turns private. Wishes into shared expectations. Design temptation bundles. Reserve pleasures for post-block. Best coffee, walk in sun, favorite chair. The body learns. Work gives small joy. This is not bribery. It is counter-conditioning. Engineer one-way paths into work. Script a ritual that moves forward only. Water, timer, dock open, read last lines. Type 1, ugly sentence. No inbox detours. No, just a peek. You reach the mass before you look at the sea. Choose fail open versus fail closed wisely. For focus, prefer fail closed systems, locked by default. You must unlock to drift. For creativity, some systems can be fail open, ideas easy to capture. Most people reverse this and drown in novelty. Use commitment language that binds. Not, I will try. Say, from 9:10 to 9:40, I will maintain a sealed pipe. Speak it. The voice hearing your own vow matters. Audit your locks weekly. What did the sirens sing through? Tighten that seam. Locks are living designs. The ocean changes. Beware revenge against your own ropes. After a few wins, pride whispers, you do not need these. Then you drift. Prove the rope was never needed and wake on rocks. Keep the rope until the song is dull. Maybe keep it forever. Pre-commitment is not joyless. It is merciful. It lets you live days that feel trustworthy. It ends the nightly trial where you prosecute your own promises. It creates a simple world for an hour where the only question is, what's next? Not, am I weak? The mirror will keep flattering you with the fantasy of pure will. Will is weather. Ropes are architecture. When the music swells again, notifications, anxieties, the sweet shriek of easy relief, will you test your strength against a choir that drowns? Sailors, or will you tie the knot now while your hands are steady and let your future wake on a shore you chose? The tyranny of defaults. You do not choose most of your day. Your day chooses you. The mirror does not just show a face, it shows defaults quietly steering your hands. Whatever is pre-installed, pre-checked, pre-opened, pre-within reach becomes your life. Choice architecture is not theory. It is plumbing. And your procrastination leaks wherever the pipes were laid for you by someone who profits when you drift. Default calendars slice your time into meetings. Default apps demand your eyes. Default notifications stage a coup every hour and call it connection. A browser that opens to a feed becomes a corridor that empties into oblivion. You promise to swim upstream with discipline. The current smiles. Rivers do not care about speeches. This is the nudge world. Small features of the environment push behavior without asking permission. Organ donors spike when the default box is checked. Yes. Retirement savings climb when contributions are automatic. Your focus collapses when the default homepage is screaming. You think making choices, accepting defaults dressed as decisions. Procrastination thrives where the path of least resistance diverges from the path of most meaning. You postpone not because weak, but because the smooth road goes to trivia and the rough road goes to the work. Change the roads. Flip the openings. Make the first thing that loads a blank document, not a carnival. Start in a one-tab profile pointed at your project folder. The mirror should greet you with what you intend, not what the world intends. For you. Reverse the gravity. Turn notifications off by default and create small, deliberate windows where messages may enter. Let people earn your attention with time, not steal it with pings. Place objects like laws. Put the book on the pillow, the shoes by the door, the water bottle on the keyboard. Hide entertainment deep. Second device, separate room, time safe. Availability is destiny. Pre-check your future. Schedule blocks where the rule is, this happens unless I opt out. Defaults drive compliance. Let your best self own the checkboxes. Rename the room. A chair becomes a behavior. One chair is deep work. One is admin. One is anything goes. Sit in the right chair and the body remembers what the space means. Context is a script your spine can read. Audit the silent pushes. For a day, log every default that guided you: homepages, alerts, placements, lighting, proximity. Ask, who benefits from this default? If the answer is not you or someone you love, redesign the push.chain defaults into rituals. Lamp on. Gives timer start, gives document open, gives read last 3 lines, gives one ugly sentence. Rituals are friendly dictatorships. They remove democratic debate at the door. Choice architecture is not neutral. Someone built the hallway that leads to your next hour. If you do not build it, a tourist in your own life, shopping at stores that sell your attention wholesale. The mirror keeps telling you to try harder inside a casino engineered to separate you from your intentions. Better advice: move the casino across town. Defaults also live inside your language. Words are levers. I have to pulls dread. I get to pulls agency. I will closes debate. Make after a default enemy. Say before phones instead. Make later illegal, replace it with a timestamp. Make someday a slur, replace it with a calendar square. Your mouth can be a nudge. Run a default day rehearsal. Tomorrow, without changing willpower, change only first positions. First sight on wake equals sunlight, not screen. First move equals water. First decision equals highlight outcome. First work met equals ritual. First break equals body, not feed. Watch how a day with new firsts invents a new you. And when life's defaults cannot be changed, a cramped office, a shared space shrink the battlefield. Noise cancel, noise masking sound, a lap desk by a window, index cards that travel. Even in a cage, perches are possible. Build one, sit on it, and write until the bars blur. Look again. The smooth path is glowing. The rough path is quiet. One will carry you like a lazy river to the end of another bright, forgettable day. One will scrape your knees and give you back a page that did not exist this morning. When the doors swing, open by themselves, will you float where they want, or will you change the hinges and walk where the world never thought you would go? Memory is a liar about work. You do not remember the hours you avoided. You remember the worst minute and the last minute. Peak end rule. Your memory summarizes experiences by their peak intensity and their end. Ignoring duration neglect. The middle dissolves. So if the start of a task stung and the end collapsed into a frantic, exhausted sprint, your mind files working equals pain. Next time, you postpone, not because the whole is awful, but because the highlight reel is rigged. Your nervous system is a historian with bias. It records panic vividly and trims the quiet competence where most minutes live. It also preserves the intoxicating relief that arrives when you stop. If you quit at the ugliest moment, the end tag becomes escape. The mirror learns. Ending is sweet, beginning is acid. Procrastination is rational if the only bookmarks you keep are hell and heaven. This is fixable because memory is editable. You can change the peaks and rewrite the ends. Engineer journal entries. The first 5 minutes write the peak. Enter with a soft ritual. Dim glare, 2 slow exhales, water, read last lines, Write one ugly sentence only. The first contact should feel survivable, not surgical. Design tempo ramps. Start slower than you want. Accelerate into the middle. Peaks belong after momentum, not before. Let the body taste flow first, string second. It will remember the melody, not just the dissonance. Exit. On a cliff, with care. Do not rip yourself away in frustration. Close with a one-sentence summary and the next two visible steps. Then perform a pleasant end cap stretch by a window, tea, a short walk. The last minutes become a cue your brain will crave. Practice reconsolidation rituals. After a hard block, spend 60 seconds recalling 3 ordinary moments that were not awful: a sentence that clicked, a problem solved, a breath that steadied you. Memory reconsolidates on recall. Nudge it toward truth, not trauma. Use short wins to bend duration neglect. Multiple short blocks create multiple ends. Endings are anchors. More anchors mean more remembered success. Upgrading the archive. Your future self will consult when it does not want to start. Patch catastrophic peaks. If a session spikes into panic, stop and run the state reset. Breath, posture, far focus. Then restart with a smaller slice. Do not let panic be the unopposed peak the historian saves. There is an uglier trick memory plays. It compares the start of work to the peak of passive pleasure. Your body remembers the highlight of last night's show and stacks it against the first awkward sentence. Of course, the sentence loses. Reset the comparison. Put the best minute of work against the worst minute of scrolling. How did you feel? After? Which end would you rather remember? Teach memory with post-session mementos. Save a line you like in a Lines I Made file. Print a single page and hold it. Record a 10-second voice note. Today I figured out the bridge between B and C. Tangible tokens anchor recall better than vague impressions. You are curating a museum your future ambivalence will walk through. Hang exhibits that keep you honest. Finally, rescue endings on bad days. If the work never caught, end small and clean. Close loops set tomorrow's first footprint. Breathe. The mind marks. We left it in good order. Next approach, the door. Opens easier. We think discipline is about the next hour. It is also about the last hour you will carry forward as myth. If you script today's end as dignified and today's peak is earned, tomorrow's body walks toward the mirror with less dread. Stare into the glass. What does it replay? The moment you fled or the moment you finished and breathed like a human? When the archivist in your head reaches for a story to decide whether to begin, will you let it keep playing horror clips or will you shoot new footage that makes beginning feel like returning to a place that did not hurt? Your mind needs a second brain. You try to carry a city in your skull. Then you drop streets. The extended mind thesis is not poetry. Cognition stretches into tools, rooms, other people. When you keep everything internal, deadlines, specs, next steps, you overload working memory and call the resulting fog procrastination. It is not moral, it is engineering. Forcing a phone to render a feature film without a GPU. Pilots and surgeons do not rely on grit. They rely on checklists. Atal Gawande did not write a self-help book. He wrote a survival manual for complexity. Checklists free bandwidth for judgment by outsourcing the repeatable. You need the same humility. Offload so the mind can think instead. Of remember. Build a second brain that is small, boring, and alive. Single trusted list. One inbox for tasks, paper or digital. Everything enters here in short lines. Many apps is many betrayals. Pick one bucket and stop carrying water in your hands. Project dashboards that answer 3 questions. What is the target state? What is the next atom? What is the earliest concrete checkpoint? If a dashboard cannot answer these in one glance, it is decoration. Templates for recurring work. Open DOC gives intro scaffold, gives source dump box, gives outline beats, gives draft pass, gives citation pass, gives Polish pass. Turn ritual into boxes you can tick without deciding order every time. Daily capture and nightly sweep. Capture during the day without judgment. At night, sweep, sort, date, and assign the next atom to tomorrow's first block. Sleep with fewer loose threads tugging your amygdala. Use checklists as attention rails, not prisons. You can skip a box. You cannot pretend it never existed. An honest skip keeps trust. A dishonest skip breeds chaos you will blame on character next week. Externalize context. For each active task, store the last state and next 2 steps at the top. Future you is a stranger who deserves a map, not a scavenger hunt. Build reference. Libraries you can raid instead of reinvent. A folder of great openings, a page of problem framings, a bank of metaphors, as a tarot or paper stack with tags that match your projects. Offloading is not laziness. It is compound interest on thinking. Use perspective memory aids. Calendar nudges tied to context. At 14 o'clock in the office, open dataset X. Sticky notes on the laptop bezel. A card in your wallet that says the next 2 steps for the stubborn project. Future, you deserves interruptions from past. You that are kind and specific. And make peace with paper. Digital is fast. Paper is sticky. A single index card with the day's one outcome placed on your keyboard can outfight 10 apps. Tools should vanish when you move. If they keep asking you to teach them your intentions, fire them. Second brains fail when they get fancy. The goal is not an aesthetic shrine to productivity. It is a working memory prosthetic. That means low friction, plain text, ugly if necessary, always nearby. If it takes more than 10 seconds to capture or recover context, you built a museum. And, yes, include a human in your extended mind. A coworker who holds you to Tuesday ships. A friend who expects a screenshot at 18 o'clock. Minds are social. Cognition improves in the light. The mirror will flatter you into believing you can keep it all in here. That flattery is a thief. Put the load where it belongs on paper, in boxes, in rails so your mind can return to the only work it was born to do, seeing clearly and shaping chaos into form. When the next wave of "I will remember" rises, will you trust the brain that is currently dropping names? Or will you build the second one that never forgets and finally move without the fear of losing your own thread? When metrics eat meaning, what? Gets measured, gets managed, and then gets mangled. Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. You started tracking words, and now you churn fluff. You started tracking hours, and now you warm a chair. You started tracking emails, and now you empty inboxes while your real work starves. The mirror shows streaks, charts, badges. Your life shows output that matters to no one, least of all your future self. Proxies are useful until they replace the thing. They comfort the anxious because they yield fast, countable wins. They seduce the avoidant because they let you feel productive without risk. That feeling is a drug. Procrastination is not always stillness. Often it is busy work addiction motion that protects you from meaning. Save yourself with proxy hygiene and meaning anchors. Name the value behind the metric. Words per day serve clarity and progress, not bigger numbers. Hours logged serve consistent presence, not moral superiority. Post the value beside the number where you can see it. Use guardrails on proxies. 500-900. Words toward the argument. 2 hours in the sealed pipe. Inbox 0 only after the highlight block. Proxies must bow to purpose, or they become idols. Track lagging indicators weekly, not hourly. Quality, shipped pieces, resolve problems, measure these on Fridays. Let daily metrics steer. Let weekly reality judge. Build anti-good hard checks. If a metric improves while the real world does not, you must change or kill the metric. This is not betrayal. It is maintenance of meaning. Practice minimum effective metrics. 1 or 2 numbers per project, not dashboards that need their own dashboards. The more dials, the more you stare at the cockpit while the plane flies itself into a hill. Schedule metric-free blocks. For 1 session a day, forbid counters and timers. Ask 1 question only. Is the work getting truer? You will remember why you began. There is another proxy that eats meaning: responsiveness. Fast replies simulate usefulness. Sometimes speed helps, often it is theater. Institute response SLs that protect creation. I reply within 24 hours. Urgent calls me. People adapt to the boundaries you defend. If you do not defend them, they adapt to your exhaustion. Use North Star questions to recenter when metrics seduce. What problem am I actually solving? Who will be less confused or more free when this is done? If a metric does not change the answer, it is garnish. And once a month, run a 0 metric day. No timers, no counters. No word counts, only a definition of done and a quiet room. Remember how to work like a human animal who cares, not a clerk. Worshipping a dashboard. Finally, beware proxy stacking when you stack so many measures that they crowd out attention. Prune quarterly. Kill 1 chart. Retire 1 streak. Replace them with a single story of impact you can tell in 3 sentences to a real person. If you cannot tell that story, the metric is lying or you are. Meaning is heavier than numbers, which is why the animal reaches for numbers when it is afraid. Hold the weight anyway. Let numbers guide the hands. Let meaning command the day. When you feel the safety of metrics pulling you away from the sentence that matters, will you keep polishing the gauge, or will you fly the plane in the dark for a block and trust that real work glows brighter than any dashboard ever built? Your brain predicts to protect you. Do not avoid work because weak. You avoid surprise. Your brain's prime directive is not truth or glory, it is prediction. It builds a model of the world and spends the day minimizing the gap between what it expects and what it gets. Friston calls it the free energy principle. Reduce prediction error. Reduce uncertainty. Stay alive. Starting new work is a factory of error. Unknown criteria, unknown effort, unknown judgment. The model protests. You call it procrastination. The cortex calls it model defense. Look at the mirror. It prefers familiar loops, feeds, inboxes, chores, because those loops are highly predictable. You can scroll for 7 minutes and the model is rarely shocked. Open the draft and the first sentence deviates from expectation. You stumble. The model flags surprise, escalates arousal, and pushes you back to smoother terrain. It is not only comfort you seek. It is predictability. Prediction machines hate blank canvases, so they hallucinate. Before you begin, the brain simulates difficulty and embarrassment at full saturation to preemptively steer you away. Better to know the pain and avoid than enter the fog and be corrected by reality. That is why your imagined suffering often exceeds what actually happens at. Minute 7. The model overshoots to keep you safe. There is a second trap. You keep your self-story tightly coupled to your predictions. I am a last-minute person. I cannot do mornings. Coupling stabilizes the model but handcuffs the life. When identity defends expectation, change feels like heresy. So you must teach your model new priors by creating low surprise entries and controlled uncertainty. Ritualize the first 90 seconds. Same mug, lamp, breath, sequence. Water gives timer, gives open doc, gives read last 3 lines, gives 1 ugly sentence. Your model learns that starting produces reliable signals. Less error gives less revolt. Constrain the world. Full screen the work. 1. Tab. 1 chair. Prediction is easier in a small room. Shrink the world until the model relaxes. Introduce micro surprises you can survive. 2-sentence variations. A playful constraint. No adjectives for 5 minutes. A tiny new example. Teaching the cortex that novelty inside bounds is safe and often rewarding. Calibrate with receipts. Track dread before and pain after. 4. The first 10 minutes. The model needs data that it routinely overshoots. Show it, do not sermonize it. Use scaffolds to reduce entropy. A visible outline, a checklist, a definition of done. Lowering environmental uncertainty so the only surprise left is creative and survivable. Perform safe prophecy. Write a tiny prediction before you start. In 5 minutes, I will have 1 rough sentence and less panic. Check it. Accurate, gentle prophecies shrink alarm in the next session. Eventually, the model updates. The animal learns. Entering. The cave usually produces light by minute 8. Not fireworks. Light. Enough to walk. The mirror stops screaming when a cursor blinks. Prediction will always try to domesticate your life. That is its job. Your job is to curate what it domesticates. The ritual, the room, the first sentence, the size of uncertainty. Then let surprise return in the only place it belongs. What arrives after you begin. Stare again. The mirror is offering you the most predictable loop in the room. You know exactly how that story ends. Will you keep choosing the same day because it contains no shock? Or will you allow a small, designed surprise to rewrite what your model believes about the first 10 minutes of your work? The story that keeps you still. You say, I work best under pressure. You do not. You explain best under pressure. Cognitive dissonance is the ache of holding 2 opposing facts. I value this, and I am not doing it. The ache demands relief. You can change the behavior or rewrite the story. You pick the pen. I perform in the clutch. I am a perfectionist. I need long runway to incubate ideas. These are anesthetics for dissonance. The task sleeps. The lie grows muscle. Festinger taught the cruel arithmetic. When behavior and belief clash, humans often bend belief to protect the self. You missed a deadline. Therefore, deadlines are tyrannical. You did not start the book. Therefore, books must be read in cathedral silence you never possess. You are not a villain, just an animal protecting coherence. Dissonance also sharpens. With public identity, the reliable one, the creative one, the chill one. Starting risks disconfirming the brand. Delaying lets the poster stay pristine. Better to be the person who could have than the person who tried and produced. Evidence. The mirror loves immaculate. MYBS. You break this not with shame, but with inconvenient actions that your story must now eat that make it dissonance deposit. Publish a micro-commitment that is slightly embarrassing if you do not follow. 2. Ugly paragraphs by 1820. Screenshot coming. Your belief about yourself must now move toward your behavior or snap in 2. Either way, motion, state values, then audit minutes. Write the top 3. Health, craft, people. Then spend 1 day tracking minutes honestly. The gap is the ache. Close it by moving 1 25-minute block from a counterfeit value, appearance, of responsiveness to a real one, progress on the piece. Your story will adjust to stop hurting. Use self-distancing to rewrite the narrative. Third person. They value X and they are choosing Y. Next, they will do Z for 25 minutes. Narration cools the limbic sting and makes space for the smallest. Corrective act. Install a counter slogan. For every sedative line, write the antidote. I work best under pressure. I only work under pressure when I forget to create stakes. I am a perfectionist. I fear exposure. So I ship ugly to learn. Tape it near the mirror. Let your mouth stop laundering avoidance. Conduct a tiny dissonance experiment. Say aloud, I am the kind of person who protects their future for 25 minutes. Then protect a timer, one ugly sentence. The brain hates lying to itself. Give it behavior. It must now explain in your favor. Practice counter-attitudinal advocacy on yourself. Write a short note arguing against your favorite excuse as if you believe the opposite. Here's why I do not work best under pressure. Your cortex can be cornered into honesty by its own logic. Dissonance does not vanish. It moves. Your task is to move it into creative discomfort. My draft exposes my gaps. Good. Now I learn. And away from identity anesthesia. I'm built this way. Every time you choose a small behavior that contradicts the lie, the egg flips allegiance from protecting the mask to protecting the next honest act. Listen to the mirror, rehearsing the lines that have carried you to sleep for years. You could speak them again and inherit their tired peace. Or you could say a truer sentence that stings for 5 minutes and then frees your hands. When the ache arrives at your throat and begs for a story, will you narcotize it or will you feed it the one thing it cannot digest without transforming evidence? When everyone owns it, no one starts. You think group work will save you from delay. Sometimes it breeds it. In a crowd, effort thins. Social loafing. Individuals exert less when their output is pooled. Diffusion of responsibility. The more people who could act, the less any one person feels obliged. The mirror multiplies faces and your animal relaxes. Someone will move. No one does. The deadline becomes a cliff you all roll toward. Smiling. Ringleman measured rope pulls. Add people, force per person drops. In teams, add anonymity and uneven accountability, and procrastination becomes a culture. Meetings to align, emails to circle back, documents to gather input. Everyone is working. The work does not move. This is not cynicism. It is physics. The fix is designing responsibility to be seen, singular, and scheduled. Appoint a single-threaded owner, not a committee. One name beside the deliverable. Others may contribute. One person is answerable. Ambiguity fuels diffusion. Disaggregate the puddle. Convert, we need a report, into atoms with owners and dates. J. Sources by Tuesday 10 o'clock. M. Outline by Wed 14 o'clock. Lo. Figures by Thursday 12 o'clock. Group goals inspire. Atomic promises deliver. Install transparent dashboards. Visible to all with binary states. Done, not done. Public progress collapses loafing because the mirror finally reflects you. Not the crowd. Use synchronous sprints, not asynchronous drift. 50-minute co-working blocks where cameras are on. Goals are typed in chat at minute 0. Receipts posted at minute 50. The mere presence of others focusing is a harness. Rotate the heat. If one person always rescues, the group learns to wait. Create a calendar of on-call for momentum, where one member is responsible for unblocking whatever is stuck that day. Responsibility has a face again. Pre-commit to escalation rules. If X is not done by 14 o'clock, owner pings Y. If no movement by 16 o'clock, Z decides with the information available. Decision latency is a silent procrastinator. Rules cut it. Kill fake. Consensus. Seek, disagree, and commit after a defined window. Open loops multiply when groups worship harmony over movement. Not a family at dinner. A unit under time. Define good enough together. Many teams delay because standards are implicit and infinite. Write the sufficient excellence criteria on one page. Everyone shines. Now overwork and underwork have boundaries. Protect lonely ownership time. The paradox. Group projects accelerate when individuals get uninterrupted blocks. Maker time is a team asset. Guard it. Social procrastination also hides inside politeness. You do not remind. You do not escalate. You do not say no, because protecting feelings. The deadline does not care about etiquette. Practice kind directness. I need X by 11 o'clock to proceed. If it slips, I will choose Y without your input. Respect is clarity with a clock dot, and if the one disappearing into the group, admit the sweet reason. Anonymity dissolves fear. You would rather be an elbow in a crowd than a face in the light. But the work that will change your life requires a face. Take one small piece end to end. Be the name that moved it. Build a spine others can lean against. Look again at the mirror. Full of colleagues. It is easy to dissolve in the reflections and call it teamwork. But teams that ship on time are built from individuals who start when it is their hour to start. When the crowd hums and the cliff approaches, will you keep singing the chorus, or will you step forward, put your name beside a date, and become the person the group silently prays will exist? Your environment is a script. You think your choices are free. They are mostly cues. The room you sit in writes the first line of your behavior, and you improvise the rest to look like art. Memory and action are context-dependent. The state and place. Where you learned a routine cue its return. Study in noise. Recall in noise. Snack on the couch. Crave on the couch. Open your laptop in the same chair where you binge, and your fingers reach for the same keys. The mirror is not neutral. It is a teleprompter. Psychology's old demonstrations. We're simple and brutal. Change context. Change performance. Divers remembered word lists better underwater if learned underwater. Better on land if learned on land. Your life repeats the trick across subtler landscapes. Desk clutter, light temperature, the smell of your mug, the tab that loads first. You call it habit. It is context reinstatement doing its ancient job bind behavior to surroundings. To save energy, there is a darker twin. The renewal effect. You extinguish a habit in one context. No phone during writing. Success for a week, then relapse hard in the original context because the brain tagged the rule to the new room, not the behavior. You think change failed. Change was local. The old chair kept the old contract. So procrastination often is not a failure of resolve. It is a failure of set. You enter a space that has taught your animal we drift here, and drifting returns before thought can vote. Willpower arrives late to a party the walls already started. Build a new script. Assign behaviors to places. One chair for deep work. One for admin, one for play. Label them if you must. Sit in the deep chair and only do deep work. Bodies learn places faster than minds learn sermons. Prime the stage. Clear desk to a single object that implies the next verb. Outline printout. Open doc at the right page. A pen uncapped. Hide everything else. Props are instructions. Switch scents, sounds, and light. Lavender lamp for reading. Bright white for drafting. Nature noise for analysis. Silence for revision. Multisensory cues are stacked nudges. Stack them until starting. Is a reflex. Close the casino. Build a one-tab browser profile that opens to your project folder, not a feed. Turn off badges. Log out by default. If you must check messages, do it in a different room, on a different device, in a different chair. Keep sin at church. Keep work at work. Exploit habit discontinuity. Life events new semester, move, trip. Even a furniture shuffle break. Old cue webs. Use them. Rearrange your desk. Flip the room's axis. New angles teach new behaviors because the brain has no old map to follow. Create portable contexts. When you cannot command the room, shared spaces, travel. Carry a kit that becomes a micro-context. Same mug, same headphones, same starter card. Water gives timer, gives read last 3 lines, gives one ugly sentence. Open the kit. Open the state. Anchor and rituals. End each block with the same exit choreography. One sentence state, next two steps, breath at the window. Exits teach re-entry. Tomorrow's context begins the moment you leave today's. Audit your teleprompters. For 3 days, log what the room made you do, where you scrolled, where you wrote, where you snacked. Then change one cue per day. Do not debate identity. Rotate lamps. Invite social context. Co-working hours with cameras on, or just one focused friend in the same space. Humans are moving contexts. Borrow their gravity. Your mirror is mounted on a wall that has trained you for years. Of course, it shows the path you always take. But mirrors can be moved, and rooms can be rewritten. When you step into the same old doorway and feel your hand float toward the same old tab, will you keep obeying the script the furniture wrote, or will you change the set and force your animal to learn a new first line? The ostrich cure that kills you. You do not check the grade, the balance, the page count. You do not want to know. It feels like self-care. It is information avoidance, the ostrich move. Research calls it by its plain name. When data threatens ego or comfort, humans prefer not to look. The mirror sells the dark as mercy. The bill arrives with interest. Why avoid? 3 reasons braid into a noose. First, ego threat. Numbers can bruise identity. Maybe I'm not competent. Second, anticipated regret. Knowing might force change or reveal waste. Third, action costs. Information implies obligation. Obligation implies effort. The mind protects you from all 3 by keeping you innocent. Innocent people sleep. Until 2.m. Avoidance detonates productivity in slow motion. Without feedback, you drift. Without drift metrics, you believe stories. Without stories that hurt, you never update. Then the deadline replaces gentle truth with brutal truth. The day you finally look becomes a public autopsy. Cure the ostrich with gentle exposure and bounded data. Shrink the monster. Replace global questions. How behind am I? With local binary checks. Did I write 200 words today? Is section B longer than 400 words? Local data hurts less. You will look more. You will act sooner. Schedule reality. Daily 3-minute truth windows. Open the doc, glance at word count, skim outline, peek at bank of sources. No judgment, no edits, just contact. Fear decays in contact. Measure process first, outcome later. Track, blocks honored, starts made, checkpoints reached. Outcomes, grades, sales, lag and sting. Process indicators move daily and train self-efficacy. Add a kind witness. Share 1 number with someone safe. 2 blocks done. Visibility dismantles fantasy. Kindness prevents collapse. Shame spikes avoidance. Gentleness sustains contact. Use implementation intentions for data dread. If heartbeat spikes at the thought of opening analytics, then stand, drink water, breathe. For 10 seconds, and open anyway. Chain fear to ritual, not escape. Commit to small responses. Data implies change. Promise a tiny reaction. If the word count is low, write 1 ugly sentence. If budget is off, cancel 1 minor expense. If progress sags, schedule 1 25-minute block. Keep the slope shallow so you do not flee. Create safe dashboards. A single page that shows only the 3 numbers that guide the day. For example, blocks. Done. Current section word count. Next checkpoint date. No colors that scream. No charts that peacock. The goal is looking daily, not impressing investors. Practice self-distancing during checks. Narrate. They are checking word. Count to help future them. Number is a signal, not a verdict. Grammar can blunt a spike. Reframe pain as payment. The 1-minute sting of opening reality replaces the 8-hour hum of dread. Pain now, peace later. Not the reverse. Information avoidance also preserves myth. As long as you do not look, you might still be on pace. The myth feels warm. But your life is not protected by warmth. It is protected by course correction. Pilots do not feel their way to a runway. They watch instruments and adjust before the ground explains physics. There is tenderness in honest numbers. They keep you from turning into the person who only meets themselves at cliffs. Your animal can learn that the dashboard is not a judge. It is a lantern. You do not stare at it forever. You glance, you steer, you go back to the road. Stare at the mirror. Behind the glass is a veil you have pulled over the day. Will you keep choosing darkness so your story does not bruise? Or will you lift the veil for 60 seconds, let small truth in, and change one thing before the night decides? For you, the boredom bargain, you flee work because it feels empty. Boredom is not the absence of stimulation. It is the absence of meaningful stimulation. Eastwood calls it the unfulfilled desire to be engaged. Your attention wants a why and a wave. The task offers neither at first contact. The mirror shows a flat sea. Your animal howls for a storm and finds it in your phone. Boredom proneness predicts procrastination because understimulation makes the limbic system shop for jackpots. Section 12. Novelty seeking is not sin. It is orientation, ancestral radar for new opportunities. In a feed-saturated world, that radar locks onto brighter objects than your paragraph. So you postpone not because you hate work, but because your nervous system cannot feel movement or meaning soon enough to stay. Fix boredom with designed momentum and manufactured meaning. Install microwaves. Timebox to 10 to 15 minutes with a visible countdown. Aim for a small visible finish. 3 bullets, 1 example, 150 words. Waves of completion deliver the goal gradient effect. Motivation rises as the end nears. Many small ends greater than one distant end. Use playful constraints. No adjectives for 10 minutes. Explain to a 5-year-old. Only questions in this paragraph. Constraints generate novelty inside the task. Novelty moves boredom's needle without leaving the room. Switch tempos. Alternate 8. Fast minutes generate with 4 slow minutes. Tidy. Tempo shifts engage the restless system without derailing the channel. Make meaning proximate. Write 1 line at the top. This helps name a person, avoid name a pain. Today. Attach a ZU. Photo. Meaning cannot live only in a distant legacy. It needs a face now. Bundle delight. Reserve a favorite playlist, lamp, or tea for this block only. You are not bribing yourself. You are reassigning pleasure from feeds to creation. Engineer visible artifacts. Save lines you like in a Spark file. Print 1 page. Record a 10-second what moved note after each block. Boredom starves without trophies. Rotate difficulty deliberately. When monotony spikes, shift to a different subskill within the same project. Outline, draft, edit, polish. Amotless. Rotation keeps novelty in the lane, not in another app. Practice. Attention calisthenics. 2 minutes of single-point focus. Breath. Distant object. Before you start expands the window of tolerance for plain moments. You do not need monk-level chops. You need a slightly wider window. Use boredom as a barometer. Sometimes boredom is a signal. The scope is wrong. The question is dull. The audience is imaginary. If you cannot find a live edge, change the prompt. Raise the bar or cut the dead limb. Do not dignify a corpse with discipline. Boredom also hides fear. If you declare a task boring, you do not have to admit afraid of incompetence or judgment. Test it. Ask, if this were secretly scary, what would I fear? Answer, Then design a move that touches the fear in miniature. Send to one kind. Witness write the ugly paragraph. Ask one clarifying question. If boredom dissolves, you found the real lever. There is a deeper mercy. Learning to like ordinary minutes. The finest work of your life will be built from them. When you stop needing constant spectacle, you regain the attention span that lets meaning accumulate layer by layer, like lacquer. Feeds burn meaning for heat. Craft stores it. Look into the mirror. The flat sea is still there, still honest. You could chase storms all afternoon and end the day soaked and empty. Or you could raise a small wind with a timer till the sail with a constraint and cross one quiet mile you will remember. When boredom leans in with its false yawn, will you go hunting for louder waves? Or will you build the ones that carry you past the reef where your best work waits?